Chapter 506. The atmosphere in the training grounds abruptly turned silent. This time around, when the 9 great sects were about to arrive, the experts present were all present. On the training grounds, although Xiaoyu was a heavens chosen from the Xian King city, he wasn't the most dazzling one. However, his death still attracted the attention of everyone. Because that spear strike was too dazzling. They didn't know what Xiaoyu had experienced, how his throat was slit by a single spear strike. They couldn't understand how a 5th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign from the Xian King city died before he could even unleash his full strength. Precisely because they couldn't understand, it was terrifying. The long spear in the hands of the black-robed young man was only an ordinary weapon. And right now, this ordinary weapon was dripping with blood. That blood belonged to a heavens chosen from the Xian King city. Yun-Ro, who was among the crowd, felt her heart pounding. At the instant when Qin Wentian stabbed out, her nervousness rose to the peak. When the spear pierced through Xiaoyu's throat, she even felt a sense of suffocation. Even now, she still hadn't calmed down, her heart was still thumping wildly. This caused her to be extremely curious about this black-robed young man. How powerful! The 2 people beside her were also dumbfounded. They had thought that Qin Wentian would bring along a top-grade, 4th-ranked divine weapon to participate in the examination of the 9 great sections. Yet, Qin Wentian had only used an ordinary weapon. In the spectator stands, several figures abruptly stood up. Their countenances were ice-cold, and a terrifying baleful aura could be seen flickering in their eyes. They were experts from the Ecliptic sect. Xiaoyu was a heavens chosen of their sect, yet his throat was slit by the black-robed young man. Only now did they understand the meaning behind Qin Wentian's earlier words. He only wanted to ask a single question. Was it permissible to kill on the training grounds? The gazes of those from the 9 great sects as well as the royal Shang Empire all turned to Qin Wentian. The black-robed young man gripped his long spear tightly. The ordinary spear didn't even tremble in the slightest. His hands were too steady, not moving an inch. His gaze was on Jin Yan. His gaze was like a sharp blade, directly piercing into Jin Yan's eyes, causing him to awaken from his stupor. Xiaoyu wasn't the only one blocking Qin Wentian's path. Wasn't Jin Yan the same as well? Thinking up to this point, Jin Yan's aura erupted out crazily. Raging flames rose to the skies, his blood boiled, and the surrounding temperature rose rapidly. Buzz! The long spear in Qin Wentian's hand stabbed straight out. It was still silent, but it was fast enough that the sound could not reach the ears of the crowd. This time, those experts were all staring at Qin Wentian's spear. His spear didn't seem to have much abnormality, or it could be said that they didn't know how to describe this amazing spear. It was so amazing that it couldn't be judged. They didn't know what Jin Yan was experiencing at this moment. In the instant that seemingly ordinary spear thrust out, he had already felt the call of the Grim Reaper. His mind was in a state of chaos, as if he had fallen into a demonic barrier. In a world of darkness that was as dark as blood, there was only a single spear coming at him from all directions. He had even lost his sense of direction, as if he would die no matter where he went. Pooh! A light sound rang out. Jin Yan finally felt the despair in Xiaoyu's heart. He finally understood why Xiaoyu would wait for his death under this spear, with no strength to resist at all. Only when he himself faced this spear did he know how terrifying this devil's spear was. Who did he offend? Why did they want to kill him? Jin Yan, the second one. A familiar voice drifted into Jin Yan's ears. After which, a silhouette suddenly appeared in his mind. It was that white-robed figure who dared to snatch half of the constellation fruits when the experts were as numerous as the clouds. The 6 chosen ganged up on him, yet he managed to escape. After that, the experts from the 6 transcendent powers chased after him, yet they were all chased away by his purgatory vermilion bird. It's him. A thought flashed through Jin Yan's mind. After which, his body turned cold as his consciousness gradually dissipated. Jin Yen. In the spectator stands on the arena, a hoarse voice rang out. In the direction of the royal clan, an expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan stood up, his countenance pale as he stared at the corpse of Jin Yen. Jin Yen was the same as Xiaoyu, his throat was pierced by a single spear strike. 2 heavens chosen died in the hands of the same person. Under the same spear strike, they had no way to resist at all. Right now, Qin Wentian's 4 mandates had all reached the transformation boundary. He had trained in the halberd for tens of days, and every single strike he executed contained the mandate of dreams. Now that he had switched to the transformation boundary of the 2nd level of the mandate of dreams, his opponents clearly knew that it was fake. However, the mandate of dreams was too strong, it corroded their will, causing their mandates to enter a dreamscape. In addition to his spear arts, although Xiaoyu and Jin Yen were a level higher than Qin Wentian, how could they not die? In the past, Qin Wentian had to use the power of his bloodline to fight against the 6 chosen. But now that he had broken through to the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper, killing the 6 chosen was as easy as flipping his palms. This was the suppression of the will of mandates. The crowd in the surroundings was in an uproar. 2 heavens chosen from the major powers of the Xian King city were killed with a single spear strike. Staring at the corpses on the arena, the hearts of the spectators couldn't calm down. What a ruthless method. Not only that, he was so strong, so arrogant. Are they even qualified to participate in the examination of the 9 great sects? Qin Wentian was still wielding the long spear in his hands. He slowly turned and stared at the experts on the arena as he spoke. This Xiaoyu and Jin Yen, they seem to have the reputation of being heavens chosen in the Xian King city, yet they are actually trash. In that case, the other heavens chosen from the Yin clan, Wind Rock aristocrat clan, Heaven Shocking Sword sect and the other major powers should be the same, right? Why don't you all scram down from the arena, lest you embarrass yourselves here? A single sentence from Qin Wentian had offended all the heavens chosen from the major powers of the Xian King city. The heavens chosen from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan, Feng Yunhe. The heavens chosen from the Yin clan, Yin Ting. The heavens chosen from the Heaven Shocking Sword sect, Jian Jingtian. Right now, all of them were still on the arena. The black-robed young man was simply too lawless. Sir, aren't your words a little too arrogant? Yin Ting took a few steps forward, the might of lightning radiating from him. He didn't know about the spear strike Xiaoyu and Jin Yen experienced. If not, he wouldn't even stand out to speak. But now, he wanted to join the Violet Thunder sect. How could he lose face in front of the Violet Thunder sect? Do you really think that you are invincible just based on your spear arts? Feng Yunhe coldly snorted. His speed was unparalleled, he was the strongest among the heavens chosen. Xiaoyu and Jin Yen might not be able to evade that spear strike, but he didn't think that he wouldn't be able to do so as well. Jian Jingtian didn't reply. A powerful sword intent gushed forth from him. Jian Jingtian from the Heaven Shocking Sword sect. His swordsmanship could shake the heavens and was as fast as lightning. He knew that he wouldn't lose out to Qin Wentian in terms of spear arts. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. Wielding the long spear in his hands, he slowly walked towards the center of the training grounds. After which, he halted and spoke in a carefree manner, "The 3 of you can come at me together." As the sound of his voice faded, a light breeze gusted by, fluttering his black robes. There were many geniuses on the gigantic arena, many of them were even more outstanding compared to the heavens chosen from the Xian King city. There were even some among them who had already passed the test of the 9 great sections. But at this moment, the young man in black with the long spear in his hands became the center of attention, attracting the attention of everyone. Feng Yunhe, Jian Jingtian, Yin Ting, these 3 5th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns were humiliated in such a manner. They couldn't find any reason to cower. The cultivation base of the young man in black was only at the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper. If they didn't accept the challenge, how would they have the face to remain on the arena? How would they have the qualifications to become disciples of the 9 great sects? Even if their talent was outstanding and they passed the test of the 9 great sects, the 9 great sects wouldn't accept them. Don't hesitate any longer. If not, you won't even have a chance to act. Qin Wentian's voice rang out once more. Yin Ting, Feng Yunhe and Jian Jingtian all made their moves. Although 3 against 1 wasn't something glorious, Qin Wentian's domineering manner of killing Xiaoyu and Jin Yan was simply too domineering. If they were to fight against Qin Wentian alone, they wouldn't dare to do so. His astral nova erupted forth as Jian Jingtian slashed out with his sword. The violent sword qi transformed into a terrifying tidal wave, gushing towards Qin Wentian. Yin Ting also acted. His silhouette soared up into the air, staring down at Qin Wentian. With an explosive roar, a gigantic lightning palm imprint appeared in the air, pressing down from the heavens, aiming straight for Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette soared up into the air as he stabbed out with his spear. In that instant, he was no longer as silent as before. His entire person was akin to a hegemon of an era, imbued with a towering aura. As the spear stabbed out, the space around it shattered. The gigantic palm imprint exploded as Qin Wentian's silhouette shot upwards, aiming for Yin Ting. Fast, his speed was too fast. Qin Wentian's spear struck out, shattering the gigantic palm imprint as he evaded the terrifying sword might. Feng Yunhe also arrived. The instant Jian Jingtian and Yin Ting made their moves, he was akin to a great rock, pressing down on Qin Wentian. His golden palms were indestructible as they directly smashed towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian blasted out with his left palm, yet his body didn't slow down at all. Instead, he continued soaring up into the air, emitting a tyrannical aura. Yin Ting's will of the mandate of great earth pressed downwards. Qin Wentian's body was extremely heavy, yet it didn't obstruct his determination to kill Yin Ting. Block him. Jian Jingtian's silhouette flickered as he sped over. Yin Ting's eyes flashed with lightning as a towering amount of lightning energy gushed forth from his body, condensing into a gigantic lightning sword that was infused with the will of multiple mandates. The blood in Qin Wentian's body surged as the mandate of force and mandate of demons erupted from his right arm. His long spear was like a hot knife cutting through butter, piercing out with unstoppable force. Qin Wentian soared up into the skies, his long spear pointed straight at the dome of the heavens. This spear strike of his was like a peerless overlord. Bang! The gigantic lightning sword shattered. No amount of energy could block the sure kill intent contained within this spear strike. Abruptly, a bloody light flashed in Yin Ting's mind as the entire world seemed to have vanished. Third. Qin Wentian's voice rang out in his mind. After which, the tyrannical spear pierced into his body, causing the spectators to tremble violently. Yin Ting had fallen. This was the 3rd heaven chosen to die. Die. Jian Jingtian felt a sense of sorrow in his heart when he saw Yin Ting's death. It was as though Yin Ting's death was his ending as well. A single sword strike shook the heavens, the entire space was destroyed by the sword intent. At the instant Qin Wentian killed Yin Ting, his long spear swept out horizontally like a wooden rod, smashing into the incoming golden palm imprint of Feng Yunhe. Qin Wentian's body was like a gust of wind as he soared up into the skies, directly escaping from the attack of the sword qi. How fast! Qin Wentian had cultivated the rock flash innate technique before. He was akin to a great rock, and in addition to the demonic blood in his veins, his speed was naturally fast. He stood in the air, staring down at the two of them as he kept his long spear. After which, he retrieved the great axe strapped to his back, and with a flicker of his silhouette, he dashed towards Jian Jingtian. I don't believe it. Jian Jingtian coldly spoke. His astral nova directly tore through the skies, exploding outwards. Qin Wentian didn't evade, he directly cleaved downwards with his great axe. A single axe split the heavens. As the great axe descended, even the heavens and earth trembled. When it slammed into Jian Jingtian's astral nova, Jian Jingtian groaned in agony. His astral nova felt as though it was on the verge of shattering. He only saw a beam of axe light slashing downwards, causing his body to involuntarily tremble as he hurriedly retreated. The might contained within that axe strike caused him to feel terror in his heart. Slash! Qin Wentian roared, the axe in his hand cleaved downwards through the air. Puchi! The center of Jian Jingtian's brows was split open, and a long line of blood flowed out from the wound. This is sword art. Jian Jingtian spat out as his body fell from the skies. Chapter 507. In the direction where the royal clan of Grand Shang was located, the experts stood up one after another, howling with rage, wanting to press down on the training grounds. The 9 great sects had arrived, the royal clan of Grand Shang followed, accompanied by the king manor. The representatives of the major powers of Xian King City were all here, including the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan, Wind Rock Aristocrat clan and the Yin clan. But at this moment, they personally witnessed the geniuses of their respective powers dying in the hands of Qin Wentian. Xia Yu died, Jin Yen died. Earlier, Yin Ting was killed and Jian Jingtian was slain. These 4 were all geniuses of Xian King City, yet they all died in the hands of the same person. This caused the people of Xian King City to feel stifled. This time around, the demon-level geniuses from the 9 great sects all came here with high hopes, wanting to become disciples of the 9 great sections. Yet because of the appearance of the black-robed young man, all of them died one after another. Jian Jingtian's body fell from the air, but before he died, a voice rang out in his ears. The 4th one. The axe strike that killed him was indeed a sword art. The will of the mandate of the sword note mandate slashed out with the tip of the axe, destroying Jian Jingtian. Feng Yunhe wanted to continue rushing forward, but upon seeing Jian Jingtian's death, he instantly halted. After which, with a howl of madness, he grabbed out with his palms, causing a gigantic rock to fly towards Qin Wentian, blotting out the skies. However, he abruptly turned and fled, wanting to leave the training grounds. Feng Yunhe of the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan didn't dare to continue fighting. He wanted to leave the training grounds. Even if he lost face, even if he couldn't enter the 9 great sects, he still had to leave. Qin Wentian spun in the air, slashing out with his axe in rage. A beam of resplendent light tore through the air, directly tearing apart the shadow of the great rock. Staring at Feng Yunhe fleeing, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a cold light, as an intense killing intent gushed forth from him. Bzzz. A gust of wind swept past. Qin Wentian's speed was as fast as lightning. He threw the axe forward and then slapped forward with his palm. This palm strike caused the heavens and earth to tremble. The pulse of the entire space was enveloped by this palm strike. The palm energy transformed into raging waves that actually emitted rumbling sounds. The power of the palm caused the space around it to tremble, growing stronger and stronger as it transformed into a monstrous shockwave that blasted towards Feng Yunhe. Feng Yunhe howled in rage. With a wave of his palms, a layer of resplendent armor appeared on his body. Terrifying shockwaves blasted into his body, causing him to cough out a mouthful of blood. That energy directly penetrated into his body, severing his meridians and ending his life, wanting to destroy his 5 viscera and 6 bowels. This was an illusory shockwave. Buzz! Feng Yunhe didn't dare to slow down. He continued sprinting forwards, and just when he was about to reach the bottom of the training grounds, Qin Wentian once again grabbed hold of the great axe he had tossed out. With lightning speed, he appeared behind Feng Yunhe and cleaved downwards. Careful! The experts from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan roared. They only saw the black-robed Qin Wentian brandishing the axe, intending to split the heavens apart. Just that might alone caused their hearts to palpitate wildly. Feng Yunhe naturally sensed the might behind him. With a howl of madness, the astral energy in his body erupted forth, protecting him. His wings abruptly unfurled, wrapping around his entire body. The black-robed man was like a heavenly deity as he chopped down with his axe, slamming into Feng Yunhe's body. With a thunderous boom, Feng Yunhe's body was directly smashed out of the martial arts practice field, causing the earth to shatter. The spectators in the surroundings hurriedly retreated. The terrifying shockwave actually caused them to lose their balance. Yunhe. Numerous silhouettes dashed towards Feng Yunhe, only to see that Feng Yunhe, who was protected by Feng Yunhe's wings and divine weapon, wasn't moving at all. When the experts tried to remove Feng Yunhe's wings, they discovered that Feng Yunhe's body had already been split apart. Blood flowed from his 7 apertures, and his internal organs had all been ruptured. He had long since stopped breathing, and couldn't be more dead. Qin Wentian had comprehended the second level of the mandate of force, the void shockwave. In addition to his powerful perception, the instant he struck out, the power of the shockwave directly permeated into his body, transforming into a pulsating energy that could destroy everything. Although Feng Yunhe was protected by a divine weapon, there was no doubt that he would die. The spectators inclined their heads and stared at the black-robed young man standing in the air. Although he was only wielding an ordinary axe, he was like a god of war, exuding an unparalleled might. The experts from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan glanced at Qin Wentian, only to see a terrifying killing intent flickering in the eyes of one of them as he icily stated, "You are courting death." As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying wave of demonic qi gushed forth. Qin Wentian stared at the black-robed young man as he roared, "Do you treat the promise made by the 9 great sects as farts?" As the sound of his voice faded, the tyrannical aura radiating from the black-robed young man abruptly froze as he stared fixedly at the black-robed young man in the air. "Can't even withstand a single strike, yet you still claim to be a heaven's chosen. What's there to regret about your death? I shall help the Xian King city to wipe out these people with undeserved reputations." Qin Wentian coldly spoke. His silhouette flickered as he returned to the training grounds. The gazes of the spectators were all fixed on him, their eyes filled with hatred, as though they wanted nothing more than to kill him and dig out his heart. Those who died were all geniuses from their respective clans and sects, geniuses who had the potential to join the 9 great sections. Yet, all of them died just like that. Right now, the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Grand Shan were all present. The royal clan had already stated that no one was to interfere. What could they do? They could only wait for Qin Wentian to come down before they made him die a miserable death. However, this young man's strength was too tyrannical. If he joined the 9 great sects, wouldn't that mean that they wouldn't even have a chance to take revenge? As they thought of this, they grew even more nervous as they stared at Qin Wentian. This black-robed young man was so domineering, he would definitely join the 9 great sects in the selection test. Those from the 9 great sects also noticed Qin Wentian. An expert from the Qinghua Mountains turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian as he asked, "Are you interested in joining my Qinghua Mountains?" As the sound of his voice faded, the spectators all drew in a deep breath. The 9 great sects were here to recruit disciples, allowing them to display their prowess on the training grounds. The black-robed young man killed 5 heavens chosen, and he even jumped levels to kill them. He even fought against 3 of them at the same time. Such combat talent left many in the dust. His comprehension of mandates far surpassed the geniuses of the Xian King city. Most probably, there weren't many in the same generation as him in the Xian King city. And now, the Qinghua Mountains extended an invitation to him. This black-robed young man was the first person who didn't take the initiative to join the 9 great sections. This caused those experts from the major powers in the Xian King city to feel nervous. If this black-robed young man agreed to the invitation of the Qinghua Mountains, would they still be able to kill him? In the direction of the royal clan of Grand Shang, the person in the lead was an old man clad in luxurious robes. His countenance was incomparably imposing, causing others to feel immense pressure just by looking at him. At this moment, the old man leaned forward, leaning towards a young man sitting in front of him as he asked in a low voice, "What do you think of this young man?" This young man was clad in golden robes. His features weren't handsome, yet he exuded an aura of heroism. With a single glance, one could tell that this man was no ordinary character. Just by sitting there, he caused others to feel a sense of reverence towards him. His eyes were especially peculiar, glowing with a golden light. Within his pupils, there was a blazing scarlet flame that was incomparably sharp, capable of penetrating through everything. This man used a secret art to disguise his features. The eyes of the young man stared at Qin Wentian, as though he could see through all secrets. He intentionally provoked the heaven chosen of the Xian King city. I'm afraid he didn't come here because of the 9 great sections. His purpose is to kill. As the sound of his voice faded, the eyes of the old man gleamed with sharpness. He didn't doubt the words of the young man in luxurious robes at all. Given how sharp his eyes were, nothing could hide from him. Since he said that Qin Wentian used a secret art to disguise his features, it must be true. At this moment, on the training ground, Qin Wentian stared at the expert from the Qinghua Mountains as he spoke. I killed 5 geniuses of the Xian King city, the major powers will surely seek revenge. As the sound of his voice faded, the expert from the Qinghua Mountains smiled, Don't worry, if you join my Qinghua Mountains, you will be a disciple of the Qinghua Mountains. The Qinghua Mountains will naturally protect your safety. Many thanks, I will consider the Qinghua Mountains first. Qin Wentian glanced in that direction and nodded his head in agreement, his actions causing many in the crowd to feel shock in their hearts. This young man was truly arrogant, he only said that he would consider the Qinghua Mountains' invitation instead of directly agreeing to it. Good. The expert from the Qinghua Mountains smiled, he naturally wouldn't force the issue. Qin Wentian naturally had the right to choose. As expected. In that case, who is the next person he wants to kill? That expert from the Grand Shang Empire had an expression of interest on his face when he heard Qin Wentian's reply. He wanted to see who Qin Wentian was going to target. If he doesn't act now, there won't be many chances left. The major powers of the Xian King city have all gathered in front of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Evidently, they want to kill him. The eyes of the young man in luxurious robes shone with a brilliant light. Many in the crowd noticed that there were many experts gathered at the bottom of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Their strength was extremely terrifying, and the majority of them were at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, the highest cultivation level allowed to participate in the examination. Qin Wentian killed the chosen of the 5 major powers. Xia Yu from the Luoho sect, Yin Ting from the Yin clan, Feng Yunhe from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan, Jin Yan from the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan, and Jian Jingtian from the Heaven Shocking Sword sect. How could these 5 major powers spare Qin Wentian? They had to think of a way to send the most powerful experts from their clans and sects to the training grounds to kill Qin Wentian. The eyes of the young man in luxurious robes gleamed with a resplendent golden light as a golden halo appeared in the center of his brows. An expression of interest appeared on his face, he wanted to see if there was anyone else the young man in disguise wanted to kill. Qin Wentian kept his great axe and took out his long spear. His eyes were as sharp as his spear as he swept his gaze across the crowd. After which, his gaze landed on Shang-Chi. I've heard that Shang-Chi of the king's estate is the leader of the various heavens chosen. His bloodline is extremely powerful, I'm sure you won't disappoint us like the others. Qin Wentian slowly walked out, the faint smile on his face was as sharp as a blade. Shang-Chi furrowed his brows. The strength of this black-robed young man was too strong. He felt that he wouldn't be able to kill the chosen of the 5 major powers. Seeing the black-robed young man walking closer, Shang-Chi had the urge to retreat. And at this moment, the young man in luxurious robes had a strange expression on his face. So it turned out that the black-robed young man's target was Shang-Chi. No matter what, Shang-Chi was a member of the royal clan, a prince of the king's estate. Hence, Shang-Chi had great respect for the black-robed young man. Hence, he reminded, Shang-Chi, this man has concealed his true appearance. He's here to kill all of you. As the sound of his voice faded, the experts from the 5 major powers all had a cold glint in their eyes. This black-robed young man had concealed his identity and came here to kill all of them. When Shang-Chi heard this, his mind spun madly as he suddenly recalled the connection between the 6 of them. They had once joined forces to kill a certain person. That person was clad in white. Bang! Stepping out, Shang-Chi turned and fled, madly sprinting in the direction of the royal clan. At the same time, he roared, "This person is the one who seized the constellation fruits." Chapter 508. As the sound of Shang-Chi's voice faded, the experts from the major powers of the Xian King city were all taken aback. Their anger towered up into the skies as a terrifying glow radiated from them. It was as though they wanted nothing more than to rush to the training grounds and kill Qin Wentian on the spot. So it's him. At this moment, they understood that the reason Qin Wentian killed the 5 chosen of the Xian King's city wasn't because he wanted to challenge them or test them. He was here for revenge. The experts from the Xian King's manor stood up, their countenances gleaming with sharpness. Staring at Qin Wentian chasing after Shang-Chi, they roared in rage, impudent. How could Qin Wentian care about them? He only came out to kill the 6 chosen one by one, all for the sake of killing all 6 of them, leaving none alive. Since his identity was exposed, he had to kill them all the more. Astral light flashed, it was none other than stellar transposition. His silhouette directly appeared behind the fleeing Shang-Chi as his long spear stabbed out with lightning speed. Everywhere the spear passed, the space was silent, yet a terrifying tremor could be felt, as though the space itself was about to shatter. Shang-Chi naturally sensed this pressure. With a thunderous boom, a dream demon illusion appeared in his mind. It was as though there were countless blood-colored demonic halberds smashing towards him. Each of the demonic halberds shone with a blood-red light that could reap away his life. They were extremely malevolent and terrifying. Ah! Shang-Chi roared, and the power of the regenerative bloodline in his body erupted. Like the roar of mountains and rivers, a terrifying rumbling sound came from his body. In his body, a terrifying golden and blood-red light burst out, like a huge cocoon, directly wrapping his body inside. Boom! An incomparably powerful shockwave blasted into the cocoon, shattering it into pieces. The long spear pierced through, yet Qin Wentian could still feel a layer of blood-colored energy enveloping Shang-Chi's body. Shang-Chi coughed out fresh blood as his body was flung forwards from the impact. The experts from the Xian King's manor all stepped out to receive him. Although they hadn't stepped into the training grounds, they were already at the borders. "Quick!" they shouted. One of them directly stretched out his blood-colored palms, grabbing towards Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi bit down on his lips as a blood-colored light shot up to the skies. His speed increased explosively as he continued advancing forward. "Where are you going?" The center of Qin Wentian's brows glowed brightly as his body transformed into a mirage. Demonic qi towered up into the sky as his bloodline surged. On the tip of the spear, there was a terrifying blood-colored light that was about to break out of the spear. "Die!" Qin Wentian roared. The blood-colored palm imprint from the Xian King's manor slammed into Shang-Chi, but at the same time, Qin Wentian's spear also slammed into Shang-Chi. Bang! At this instant, Shang-Chi's entire body trembled violently. His body stopped in the air as the blood-colored palm imprint directly dragged him to the side of the experts from the Xian King's manor. They stared at Shang-Chi as blood flowed out from his 7 apertures. His meridians and bones were all ruptured and his heart was crushed. The terrifying pulsating shockwave of this strike completely destroyed Shang-Chi. "You! The experts from the Xian King's manor inclined their heads, their eyes filled with blood-colored light that enveloped Qin Wentian, causing the blood in Qin Wentian's body to tremble violently. The spectators below all had looks of shock on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian. Wasn't this person a little too violent? After his identity was exposed, he still killed Shang-Chi, as well as 6 other geniuses from the Xian King's manor. He was simply lawless, treating the major powers of the Xian King's manor as nothing. Su Feng and Ji Shui stood in the middle of the arena, their hearts pounding unceasingly. It was Qin Wentian, he had come for revenge. Not only that, he was already so powerful. Ji Shui finally understood why the black-robed young man referred to himself as Qin Wentian. So it turned out that this black-robed young man was none other than the white-robed young man who snatched the constellation fruits from the Xian King's manor back then. Yun Ro and the others who came together with Qin Wentian were all shocked to the extreme. Qin Wentian was simply too powerful. In the direction of the royal clan, the golden-eyed young man's lips curled up in an arc as he stared at the arena. He didn't really care about Shang-Chi's death, but this young man truly caused him to be taken aback. As for Shang Yu from the Xian King's manor, she personally witnessed Qin Wentian killing 6 geniuses and came here for revenge. An indescribable feeling filled her heart. He has an interspatial scroll on him, don't let him escape. We must dismember his body into 1,000 pieces and bury his corpse in the wilderness. The experts from the 5 great sects as well as the Xian King's manor were completely enraged. They had already walked to the edge of the arena, as though they wanted nothing more than to rush in and personally kill Qin Wentian. Leng Tu from the Blood Cloud sect also felt fear in his heart when he saw this scene. Back then, he and Qin Wentian had entered the location of the crimson-eyed demonic beast. Luckily, he didn't bite the hand that fed him like Xie Yu did. If not, he would also be dead by now. The 9 great sects are recruiting disciples, and the experts from the various powers are all gathered on the arena. Life and death are determined by fate, and the 9 great sects will bear witness to it. The royal clan of Grand Shang has already made a promise in advance, and if they died in my hands, it means that their strength is insufficient. Why are all of you so enraged, wanting to enter the arena to kill me? Do you feel that the prestige of the 9 great sects isn't enough, or are you looking down on the royal clan of Grand Shang? Qin Wentian's thunderous roar caused the entire space to tremble, his voice echoing throughout the surrounding tens of miles. Everyone knew that the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Grand Shang were here. Life and death on the arena was determined by fate, who would dare to kill Qin Wentian. This explosive roar caused the experts from the various powers in Xian King's city to fall into silence. However, the baleful aura in their eyes towered up to the heavens, they were filled with hatred for Qin Wentian. We will naturally abide by the promise made by the 9 great sects and the royal clan. However, if you want to use the spatial teleportation scroll to leave, we have no choice but to obstruct you. An upper echelon from the Xian King's manor coldly spoke. Shang-Chi was his junior, and he died in the hands of Qin Wentian. Shang-Chi's talent was extremely outstanding, and he had always been highly regarded by the Xian King. As the sound of his voice faded, a 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign had already passed the Violet Thunder sword drum formation. Evidently, this person was aiming to kill Qin Wentian. This person was an expert from one of the major powers in Xian King City, the Golden Fire Aristocrat clan. His body radiated a terrifying heat, and since he was able to pass the test of the Violet Thunder sword drum formation, his combat prowess should be extremely tyrannical among those at the same level. It was only because he was too old, and he knew that he wouldn't be valued by the 9 great sects, hence he didn't come up earlier. After all, when the 9 great sects were recruiting disciples, talent was an important factor. If one was too old, even if their cultivation base was at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, their talent would still be limited. But now that they wanted to kill Qin Wentian, how could they not come up? I want him to die, to be incinerated by fire. An expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan coldly spoke, his hatred for Qin Wentian had seeped deep into his bones. Jin Yen was his son, and Qin Wentian had to pay the price with his life. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. Who said I'm leaving? Qin Wentian stared at the expert who spoke as he coldly spoke. The lines on his face changed, but after a moment, he reverted back to his original appearance. Those who were still doubting him no longer doubted him. So it turned out that he was none other than the young man in white who caused the 6 great powers to suffer a loss. How powerful, he was like a god of slaughter, disregarding everything to kill the 6 great geniuses. In front of him, those geniuses were like chickens and dogs, unable to withstand a single strike. They couldn't even receive a single spear strike from him, causing people to doubt if they were really geniuses. Lin Shui from the Battle Sword sect had a look on his face when he saw the countenance of Qin Wentian. After which, a faint smile appeared in his eyes. So it turned out that this young man was none other than the white-robed young man in the video. No wonder the ancestor regarded him so highly. Currently, Qin Wentian's tyrannical performance truly caused the eyes of everyone to light up. Those geniuses from the Xian King city couldn't even be considered anything in front of him. I, Qin, am merely a single person. Back then in the Heavenly Mountain Range, the experts from the 6 great sects all came out together. There were even many at the upper 3 levels of Heavenly Dipper. They truly think highly of me. Since I, Qin, am here today, I naturally have no plans to leave so easily. How can I not properly seek guidance from the experts from the 6 great sects? If not, wouldn't I be letting down the grace the 6 great sects gave me back then? Qin Wentian slowly spoke. The bloodline in his body abruptly erupted forth as a demonic aura gushed forth. His black hair fluttered in the wind, akin to a waterfall cascading down his back. His eyes were incomparably black, immeasurably deep and resplendent like the stars in the night sky. In the center of his brows, a brilliant light flashed as though a third eye had been opened. His aura surged madly, akin to a descendant of a primordial demon king, wanting to dominate this entire world, sweeping everything aside. The expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan walked over, his body radiating a blazing sunlight as his astral souls and astral novas erupted forth. It was as though there were several suns rising up at the same time, blinding the eyes of those who saw it. The bloodline in his body seethed, as though a golden lotus was being nurtured in his body. His entire person was unexcelled in this world. He walked towards Qin Wentian. His body trembled as he soared up into the air. His blazing sun palm imprint slashed out, causing the sunlight to be so blinding that it hurt the eyes of those who saw it. An incomparably gigantic golden lotus abruptly erupted forth, transforming into countless golden flower petals that swept towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian soared up into the skies as the aura of a monarch gushed forth. Stepping on the air, sword chi revolved around him as he continued forward. His sword chi towered up into the heavens, wanting to destroy everything. His sword-type astral nova floated above his head. That was the sword of a monarch, invincible. Die! With a loud roar, his sword slashed out, causing boundless sword chi to surge forth. The petals of the golden lotus were all obstructed as they collided with the sword chi. The sound of metal clashing against metal rang out as an ear-piercing sound rang out. Boom! Qin Wentian stepped out again, causing the entire space to tremble. Stellar transposition was executed as his long spear abruptly pierced through the air, piercing towards his opponent. That expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan folded ancient seals in his hands as 9 blazing suns erupted forth, wanting to destroy everything. His long spear pierced through the blazing suns, shattering them into pieces. A terrifying illusion of a nightmare appeared, causing the mind of that expert to tremble violently. His will wasn't strong enough and he was dragged into a nightmare. Although Qin Wentian had consecutively killed so many people, even at this moment, nobody knew exactly how strong his spear arts were. If one didn't personally experience a nightmare, they wouldn't know. Pucci. It was still that dazzling spear strike. Although his opponent's cultivation base was at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, so what? Qin Wentian's bloodline was extremely tyrannical, and in addition to the fact that both his wills of mandates were at the transformation boundary, his mandate of nightmare was extremely terrifying. Within that spear strike of his, there were 2 different types of energy. The power of a nightmare could shatter everything. Who could block it? Die! Qin Wentian roared. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, that expert's head exploded as he died under a single spear strike. The light dissipated. Qin Wentian surveyed the surroundings as he coldly shouted, "Who dares to kill me?" Chapter 509. Qin Wentian was clad in black, wielding a long spear in his hands as he stood proudly in the air. His long black hair fluttered in the wind as demonic chi towered up to the heavens, akin to a demon god descending from the heavens. "Who can kill me?" This roar was like the roar of a demon king, containing an unexcelled aura, incomparably arrogant. In the training grounds, the highest cultivation base limit was the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. However, when his bloodline power erupted, his cultivation base was comparable to the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper. In addition to the advantage of his astral souls, the astral energy and astral novas in his body had an absolute advantage. The amount of energy contained within a single grain of astral energy was even more terrifying. Every time a stellar martial cultivator unleashed an innate technique, it would be formed from boundless astral energy. The stronger the astral energy, the more terrifying the innate techniques they unleashed would be. This was especially so since Qin Wentian had condensed his divine energy. Just this energy alone was enough to break through to the next realm, not to mention that all 4 of his mandates were at the transformation boundary of the 2nd level. In particular, his spear art was derived from his halberd art. His halberd art had been comprehended over the past few months, and he had gone through countless times of tempering. Each and every spear strike of his contained a halberd art, containing 2 types of innate techniques. One was a terrifying nightmare attack, while the other was an incomparably powerful pulsating attack. The former was the suppression of one's will, while the latter was the most violent and direct form of destruction. Under a single spear strike, those at the same level as him would die without a doubt. As the spear landed, the experts from the 6 transcendent powers were no longer as confident as before. However, they were even more infuriated. This young man was so powerful, they had to kill him no matter what. "Let's join forces and kill him." An expert from the Xian King's manor roared. At this moment, there were already 2 experts who passed through the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. They weren't in a hurry to act, but stood guard at the side of the formation, waiting for the next person to pass. Their auras erupted forth as they stared at the black-robed Qin Wentian, preparing for battle at any moment. The demonic chi from that expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan towered up into the heavens as a fearsome hurricane manifested around him, causing the sand and gravel in the air to swirl about. The spectators below were all blown into disarray by the tyrannical gale as they retreated unceasingly. The whistling sound of the wind was akin to countless sharp blades scraping against one's body, causing one's skin to feel a faint pain. Even their clothes were being torn apart, and what was even more terrifying was that a pair of gigantic wings appeared on his back. That expert from the Yin family was like a lightning god that had descended into the world. Lightning violently danced on his body, enveloping the entire space. The crackling sounds caused the eardrums of the crowd to ache. That imposing aura of his simply wanted to crush everything. Whoever blocked his way would be killed. Just these 2 people were already so terrifying. From this, one could see how strong the determination of the 6 great sects was to kill Qin Wentian. They would definitely not allow Qin Wentian to leave this training ground alive. How could Qin Wentian be afraid of them? The crowd only saw him standing proudly in the air as he kept his long spear. With a flash of light, another long spear appeared in his hands. This long spear shimmered with a terrifying coldness as an aura of sharpness gushed forth. Astral energy circulated around the body of the spear, causing Yunro to exclaim in shock. This was the high-grade, 4th-ranked divine spear. The long spear Qin Wentian used earlier was only an ordinary one. Now, he was going to use a divine spear. All of you are experts from the 6 great sects, with cultivation bases at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper. You all brought along supreme strength and divine weapons, wanting to surround me, Qin Wentian. I, Qin Wentian, used an ordinary weapon to fight against all of you. It's simply too courteous. Even if I use a divine spear, you all still have a great advantage. I believe that even if I kill all of you, I will still show my true strength. Who dares to say that I, Qin Wentian, am relying on treasures? Qin Wentian's voice rumbled, causing the crowd to silently nod their heads. That's right, Qin Wentian was fighting against the encirclement of 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns from the 6 great sections. It was only normal for him to use a divine weapon. Even so, he was still at a disadvantage. Those 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns who came up were all wielding extraordinary divine weapons. At this moment, Qin Wentian stepped out. Instantly, sword intent gushed forth as the 7 annihilation swordplay erupted forth. Right now, it was even more terrifying than before. The King of Heavenly Dipper sword floated above Qin Wentian's head. Every step he took caused an intense killing intent to permeate the entire space, wanting to destroy everything. The black-robed Qin Wentian was still wielding the long spear in his hands, yet each and every step he took contained a towering sword might. He was like a demon king, and also like a monarch of swords. Such a demon-level aura deeply shocked everyone. This young man is a demon-level genius. We can fight for him from the Qinghua Mountain. The countenance of the experts from the Qinghua Mountain gleamed with sharpness. Such a genius was truly hard to come by. Just by relying on the power of his bloodline, he was able to jump 2 levels in combat and insta-kill his opponents. His mandates were already at the transformation boundary of the 2nd level, something even 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns wouldn't be able to achieve. This black-robed young man can stand shoulder to shoulder with the demon-level geniuses of the 9 great sections. His combat prowess is definitely not inferior. The expert from the heaven-cleaving manor mused. He also had the thought of recruiting Qin Wentian. Such a character could definitely be nurtured as a core member of their heaven-cleaving manor. Qin Wentian definitely wouldn't be any weaker compared to the geniuses of their sections. He hasn't even undergone the nurturing of the 9 great sects yet he has already grown to this extent. If he joins our sect, he would surely be even more terrifying. The expert from the Great Earth sect mused. To Qin Wentian, it was as though the examinations of the 9 great sects weren't that important anymore. With such combat prowess, all of them wanted to recruit him into their sections. The 9 great sects all had their own thoughts. In the Battle Sword sect, Lin Shuai's countenance was calm, yet a faint glow could be seen circulating in the depths of his eyes. He stared at Qin Wentian who was stepping out step by step. With such sword might, this young man was truly too suitable to join the Battle Sword sect. Could it be that the Grandmaster wanted to nurture him into a heavens chosen of the Battle Sword sect? Becoming the future leader of the Battle Sword sect. All these would have to depend on how great Qin Wentian's potential was in the future. But for now, they had to first recruit this little fellow. Lin Shuai stared at the crowd. It seemed as though all the experts from the 9 great sects had the intention to recruit him. At this moment, Qin Wentian had already taken his 5th step. The other 2 experts were still waiting for the 3rd person, but they could already feel a towering sword might permeating the air. It was as though the entire space was filled with terrifying sword chi, penetrating through their bodies time and time again, wanting to tear apart their astral novas. Kill! The 2 of them roared at the same time. The expert from the Wind Rock Aristocrat clan was engulfed by a hurricane as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Every flap of his wings shone with a resplendent silver light, capable of directly cleaving a human body into two. The expert from the Yin clan wielded a gigantic thunder pestle that was inscribed with complicated divine inscriptions. With a swing of his pestle, a thunder god walked out from within, blasting towards Qin Wentian. The heavens and earth danced wildly as the purple lightning bolts shattered the void. Qin Wentian stepped out as boundless sword might gushed forth, piercing through the bodies of the two experts. They only felt cracks appearing on their astral novas as they groaned in misery as blood seeped out from the corners of their mouths. However, their killing intent didn't falter in the slightest. Qin Wentian inclined his head, and with a single glance, his astral nova slashed out. This sword was akin to the sword of the god of slaughter, breaking apart the body of the thunder god. At the same time, his long spear erupted forth, piercing with incomparable precision into the silver-colored wings of the expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan. This silver-colored wing was an extremely sharp killing weapon, capable of slicing apart people. When the long spear pierced through it, a cracking sound rang out as cracks appeared. The silver-colored light shattered, and the body of the expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan became unstable. One of his wings was actually shattered into pieces. What a powerful attack! The crowd exclaimed in admiration. A single strike was able to shatter the incomparably sharp silver-colored wings. How terrifying was the might contained within Qin Wentian's spear. Do you think you can escape? Qin Wentian stared at the expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan as he sped away. Although Qin Wentian expended a lot of astral energy by executing the stellar transposition, he had 4 yuanfu and could afford it. Before this, it was useless for him to kill those geniuses. But now, he had no more worries. Puchi. That fatal spear strike pierced out. The expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan abruptly spun around and slashed out with his claws. Instantly, numerous silver-colored rocks swooped down, aiming for Qin Wentian. Destroy! Qin Wentian spat out a single word. Everywhere his spear passed by, everything was destroyed. Puchi sounds rang out as the long spear pierced through the body of his opponent, stirring up the internal organs of his opponent. There was no chance for him to survive. In the time it takes for sparks to fly off a flint, the expert from the Yin clan descended with the thunder god pestle in his hands, aiming for Qin Wentian's head. At the same time, his astral novas blasted downwards, enveloping the entire sky. This entire space was filled with the power of lightning, capable of annihilating everything. Bang! Astral light erupted as he executed stellar transposition once again. Qin Wentian's body directly broke through the domain of lightning, but his black robes were already lacerated. His long spear didn't hesitate as he stabbed out with it. At the instant the expert from the Yin clan turned, a terrifying dream devil energy rushed into his mind. Puchi. Another crisp sound rang out. Qin Wentian's long spear was so powerful that it could kill gods and Buddhas. Nobody could withstand the might of his spear head-on. What profound mysteries were contained within this spear strike? Even now, the spectators had no idea. They only knew that those who had experienced the might of this spear strike before had all died. At this moment, Qin Wentian stepped out, arriving at the front of the Violet Thunder sword drum formation. Another expert was about to pass through the formation when he saw Qin Wentian's long spear mercilessly piercing towards him. That expert's countenance paled as his heart trembled. He had no choice but to retreat. The long spear directly pierced through the center of his brows, killing him in a single strike. Qin Wentian is simply a fiendish god. In the arena, he's invincible, nobody can deal with him. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian who stood at the end of the Violet Thunder sword drum formation. How would there be anyone else who dared to enter the formation? Qin Wentian stood there, he could easily kill anyone who dared to enter the formation. Although the 6 great sects were powerful, 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns were already considered the elites of their sections. Even if one of them died, they would still feel heartache. The 6 great sects were all enraged. They stared hatefully at Qin Wentian, their eyes filled with hatred as though they could tear Qin Wentian into a million pieces. The major powers of Xian King City are truly disappointing. They can't even withstand a single strike. Qin Wentian casually spoke, ruthlessly slapping the faces of the 6 great sections. Killing their people, mocking them for being useless. Who could refute that? So many experts died under Qin Wentian's spear. Who would be able to fight against him without dying? Chapter 5:10. The training ground became the stage for Qin Wentian to perform. Countless people were staring at him, causing those who passed the test of the 9 great sects to be reduced to mere foils. The countenances of the experts from the 6 great powers were all extremely heavy. An expert from the Yin clan roared, "Kill him. My Yin clan will bestow a celestial phenomenon ascendant cultivation art to whoever kills him. My Wind Rock aristocrat clan will bestow a Wind Rock innate art that grants boundless might, allowing one to transform into a Wind Rock, soaring through the heavens and earth with unparalleled speed." An expert from the Wind Rock aristocrat clan roared. "My Golden Fire aristocrat clan will bestow a heavenly flame. After refining it, a fire seed will be born in your bloodline, granting you boundless might. Your attacks will be imbued with the power of fire." An expert from the Golden Fire aristocrat clan roared. The experts from the 6 great sects all spoke one after another, all of them were willing to bestow treasures as long as Qin Wentian could be killed. From this, one could see how deep their hatred for him was. The eyes of the experts in the training ground shone with a bright light as they stared at Qin Wentian. Right now, this young man was like a treasure trove. As long as they killed him, they would be able to obtain all sorts of treasures. There were many experts in the training ground, including some who passed the test of the 9 great sections. If they all attacked together, they would definitely be able to kill Qin Wentian here. However, no one took the lead. This was especially so when Qin Wentian turned his gaze over, giving off an immense pressure. It was as though if anyone dared to make a move, the spear in his hands would be the first to kill that person. At this moment, from the Great Earth sect, there was a young man with a fiery glow in his eyes. His silhouette flickered as he appeared beside an expert from the Great Earth sect, whispering something into his ears. In an instant, that expert from the Great Earth sect stared at the training grounds as he transmitted his voiceover, "Is this true? How would I dare to lie to an elder?" That person replied seriously. Momentarily, the elder from the Great Earth sect stared at Qin Wentian as a fiery light flashed in his eyes. "Little friend, you've already battled your way in all directions. Isn't it time for you to make your choice? If you're willing to join my Great Earth sect will definitely do our best to nurture you and treat you like a heaven's chosen of the Great Earth sect. You'll enjoy the same treatment as us. Among the 9 great sects, there's no one like that. What do you think?" At this moment, that expert from the Great Earth sect stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. His words caused the other experts from the 9 great sects to be taken aback. This person from the Great Earth sect actually dared to boast in such a manner. One must know that the so-called heaven chosen of Xian King City didn't even have the qualifications to enter the 9 great sections. From this, one could see what sort of characters the 9 great sects were. The heaven chosen among them were as dazzling as the sun in the sky, destined to enter the royal sacred sect. In fact, they were existences that radiated boundless radiance. Although Qin Wentian's performance today was outstanding, it was impossible for them to treat Qin Wentian as a genius. The geniuses of the 9 great sects could easily suppress anyone in the Xian King City. In the direction of the royal clan of Grand Shang, the eyes of the golden-eyed young man flickered with a golden light as an expression of interest appeared on his face. The Great Earth sect actually made such a decision. Most probably, things weren't so simple. "Your Highness." At this moment, a person turned his gaze onto the golden-eyed young man. This person was none other than the leader of the Xian King's manor. His eyes gleamed with a terrifying light, exuding a sense of nobility and imposingness. "Uncle!" the golden-eyed young man called out. This expert from the Xian King's manor was none other than one of his uncles. This brat has no one in his eyes, daring to kill Shang-Chi in front of the royal clan of Grand Shang. Shang-Chi has the bloodline of the royal clan flowing in his veins, how can we spare him? I beseech your highness to help us kill this brat. The countenance of the expert from the Xian King's manor turned solemn as he spoke. Today, the 9 great sects have arrived. It doesn't seem too good for me to interfere. The golden-eyed young man calmly spoke. I'm also feeling terrible about Shang-Chi's death. But in such a situation, it's truly not suitable for external forces to interfere in matters of the arena. Your Highness, this time around, there are a few outstanding geniuses from the Grand Shang Empire. If your Highness is willing, I'm sure it wouldn't be too difficult for them to kill that brat. The expert from the Xian King's manor continued. His gaze turned to the silhouettes of the young men seated to the left of the golden-eyed young man. These people were from the royal clan of Grand Shang, and he knew that they were all extremely powerful geniuses. Since the 9 great sects came to the Xian King's city to recruit disciples, they naturally would bring along their juniors. The royal clan was no exception. They have already joined the royal clan. The golden-eyed young man continued, hinting that there was no need for them to participate in the arena anymore. The words of the golden-eyed young man caused the expert from the Xian King's manor to silently curse in his heart. No matter what, they were from the same bloodline, yet this prince actually didn't want to help them. Little Yu has already grown up. She's actually so beautiful, as expected of a princess of the Xian King's manor. The golden-eyed young man seemed to have said something irrelevant, causing the countenances of the expert from the Xian King's manor to flash with sharpness. He glanced at Shang Yu, understanding the meaning of the golden-eyed young man's words. The king's manor in the 7 king cities were all feudal vassals. Although they shared the same bloodline as the royal clan, they were actually separated by several generations of bloodline. The various feudal vassals were all extremely powerful, and there were even some characters who managed to enter the royal sacred sect. For example, the old king of the Xian King's manor had already become an elder-level character in the royal sacred sect. Even the current emperor of Grand Shang had to show him some respect. For the sake of stabilizing their position, the royal clan of Grand Shang would naturally have to use some methods. Shang Yu turned her head over, only to see that the golden-eyed young man was also looking at her. That resplendent gaze of his seemed to be able to see through the hearts of people, causing Shang Yu's countenance to turn pale. Your Highness, if you can kill that brat, I'm willing to send Shang Yu into the royal palace, allowing her to become your princess consort. The expert from the Xian King's manor spoke. He agreed to this matter not only because he wanted to kill Qin Wentian. If not, since Shang-Chi had already died, it wouldn't be wise to send Shang Yu away. The golden-eyed young man's talent was unparalleled, and he was conferred the title of king from a young age. Not only that, he had the right to inherit the throne. This was different from the other kings in the 9 king cities. He was a true descendant of the royal clan, and his title was the I-King. The current emperor had 9 sons, and although this I-King wasn't the strongest, his talent was definitely extremely terrifying. He had the potential to fight for the throne, and there was a very high possibility that he would inherit the royal authority of Grand Shang in the future. Since he personally brought up the matter of Shang Yu, the Xian King naturally had to understand the deeper meaning behind his words. In order to make the I-King feel at ease, he could only suggest to marry Shang Yu into the I-King's manor. When Shang Yu heard this, her countenance instantly turned pale. The golden-eyed I-King glanced at her before nodding his head, I won't mistreat Princess Shang Yu. Shang Yu's heart was filled with sorrow, she didn't expect that her fate would be decided with a single sentence. Although she was a princess of the Xian King's manor, how could she control her own fate? Wasn't this a pitiful thing? For this matter, she actually hoped that nothing would happen to the young man in the training grounds. If Shang Tong had no way to kill him, given the arrogant personality of the I King, he would definitely not bring up the matter earlier. Shang Tong's golden eyes stared at Qin Wentian as a cold light flickered in them. Since he had already agreed to the Xian King's manner, Qin Wentian was already a dead man in his eyes. Although this young man's talent was outstanding, he was still bribed by the 9 great sections. He might as well get rid of him. Little friend, the Qinghua Mountain regards you very highly. Today, this is the second time we would like to extend an invitation to you. Are you interested in joining our Qinghua Mountain? The expert from the Qinghua Mountain once again extended an invitation to Qin Wentian. My Violet Thunder sect also welcomes you. The expert from the Violet Thunder sect stated his stance, causing Yin Ting's uncle's expression to stiffen. He glanced at an elder from the Violet Thunder sect beside him, yet the elder didn't even look at him. His countenance was as calm as ever. Evidently, from his perspective, the value of Qin Wentian far surpassed that of a mere Yin Ting. Although Yin Ting's cultivation base was higher than Qin Wentian, he wasn't even able to withstand a single spear strike from Qin Wentian. Why wouldn't they want such a character? The various major powers all opened their mouths to compete for Qin Wentian. The only one that didn't speak was none other than the Battle Sword sect. Lin Shui glanced at Qin Wentian. With such a decisive temperament, he would definitely make his own decision. It didn't matter if they spoke up or not. There's no need for all of you to accept him. He will die for sure today. At this moment, a voice drifted over, causing the hearts of many to tremble. From afar, a powerful aura drifted over. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky, only to see a figure stepping on the clouds, descending in an instant. This person exuded a tyrannical aura, exuding an unexcelled arrogance as he stared down at Qin Wentian. Jun Yu. The experts from the Xian King's manor all had expressions of joy on their faces when they saw Jun Yu. Sadly, Jun Yu didn't arrive a step earlier. If that was the case, Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to act so brazenly. Jun Yu was an expert from the Royal Sacred Sect and was also the personal disciple of the Xian King. Those from the 9 great sects also noticed Jun Yu as their hearts trembled. This Jun Yu actually appeared here. Was he here to avenge Shang-Chi? How could Jun Yu be here to avenge Shang-Chi? He was just passing by the Xian King city and heard that the 9 great sects were recruiting disciples here. Hence, he came here to take a look and actually saw Qin Wentian there. Back then when he arrived in Grand Xia, bringing with him the identity of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect, who would dare to defy him? Initially, he thought that the Pill Emperor Hall would become the hegemon of Grand Xia and his name would resound throughout Grand Xia. Who would have thought that his halo would be suppressed by a young man? And this young man was none other than Qin Wentian. During the ranking battle of the Heavenly Fate rankings in Grand Xia, his domineering presence caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. In that battle, his radiance should have illuminated the heavens, yet from the start until the end, he didn't even have the chance to unleash his full strength. He was forced into a corner by Qin Wentian and was even forced to retreat. What a humiliation! Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the silhouette in the air. How could he not remember Jun Yu? Back then when this man arrived in Grand Xia, how domineering was his attitude, causing the Ouyang aristocrat clan and Jiang clan to renounce their alliance with him, causing him to have no choice but to transform into a great rock and use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. Jun Yu was rumored to be the disciple of an elder of the Royal Sacred Sect. This elder was a king of Grand Shang, but who would have thought that he was none other than the old king of Xian King City? But so what of it? Although Jun Yu was the disciple of an elder, he was merely a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect. Die! Jun Yu coldly roared. His palm pressed downwards from the air. Qin Wentian stretched out his hand as an ancient medallion appeared in it. He then roared, with the sacred royal medallion here, who dares to kill me? Jun Yu retracted his palm as his countenance stiffened. He stared at the medallion in Qin Wentian's hand as a powerful aura gushed forth from him. You stole this medallion? The sacred royal medallion was obtained by me after I killed an expert. In addition, even if I stole it, it's still in my hands now. I hereby announce in front of the 9 great sects that I will use the sacred royal medallion to participate in the recruitment test of the royal sacred sect. As a disciple of the royal sacred sect, if you dare to make a move against me, it would be equivalent to disobeying the sacred emperor and not putting the royal sacred sect in your eyes. Qin Wentian roared, his words causing Junyu to turn ashen. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to actually know how to use the sacred royal medallion. Chapter 5:11. The sacred royal medallion was an ancient medallion issued by the royal sacred sect for the sake of recruiting geniuses from all over the world into their sect. With this medallion, one would be considered an outer disciple of the royal sacred sect and could directly obtain priority in the examinations of the various great sections. In fact, they could even skip the examinations and directly participate in the examinations of the royal sacred sect. If they passed, they would officially become a disciple of the royal sacred sect. The examination of the royal sacred sect was extremely strict, but it was also fair and just. There were many major characters of the royal sacred sect personally observing the examinees, and no one dared to practice favoritism or violate the rules. This concerned the prosperity of the royal sacred sect for generations to come. The royal sacred sect was the absolute hegemon of this region. They relied on the painstaking efforts of generations to nurture talents. All the geniuses in the world would eventually gather within the royal sacred sect. How could they not be powerful? No matter how powerful a sect was, if they didn't have the fresh blood of the younger generations, they would eventually fall into decline. Hence, the significance of the sacred royal medallion was extremely significant. Even if Qin Wentian didn't participate in the examination today, just by relying on the sacred royal medallion, he would be able to openly enter the 9 great sects and participate in the examination first. This was also the reason why the Grand Shang Empire ordered Grand Xia to come to Grand Shang. Currently, for those characters who left Grand Xia back then, some of them had already been recruited by the royal clan of Grand Shang. The people of Grand Xia didn't know the value of this medallion, but how could the people of Grand Shang not know? Not only that, the 9 great sects under the royal sacred sect were all here today. When Qin Wentian took out the medallion, Junyu retracted his palm imprint, not daring to kill Qin Wentian. Regardless of whether this medallion was obtained by Qin Wentian or not, it was already in his hands. This was his capability and he had the qualifications to participate in the examinations of the royal sacred sect. In front of so many people, Junyu didn't dare to defy the will of the sacred royal medallion. After all, this place wasn't Grand Xia. The number of sacred royal medallions in Grand Xia was simply too little. Every 100 years, the 7 supreme clans would only be able to obtain 3 medallions. Back then, these medallions were directly distributed to the royal clan of Grand Xia, and were distributed by the royal clan. This was also one of the major reasons why the supreme clans rebelled back then. And after Grand Xia collapsed, the influence of Grand Shang in the royal sacred sect gradually grew stronger and stronger. It was already a force Grand Xia could no longer contend against, and after a few thousand years, Grand Shang had completely left Grand Xia behind. Junyu's gaze turned to Qin Wentian. His long hair fluttered in the wind as rage radiated from him. He wanted nothing more than to kill this young man who made him lose face in Grand Xia back then. He wanted nothing more than to kill Qin Wentian of the royal sacred sect. He was a ascendant of celestial ascension and he even became the personal disciple of an elder of the royal sacred sect. Yet, he had suffered so many times. Evidently, the Xian king didn't expect that Junyu and Qin Wentian would have a grudge between them. That expert from the Xian king's manor spoke, "Junyu, this brat is too brazen, killing the innocent." "Who is he?" "Qin Wentian of Grand Xia, I've chased him to the ends of the earth." To think that he actually fled to Grand Shang. His lowly life is truly tough. Jun Yu's eyes flickered with a violent flame as he stabbed down, wanting to decapitate Qin Wentian in a moment of rage. Ridiculous. Qin Wentian pointed the long spear in his hand at Jun Yu as he coldly spoke, "Since you are a disciple of the royal sacred sect, you actually used this name to show off your might in Grand Xia. Back then, you were scared away by me, everyone in Grand Xia knows about this. And now, you still have the face to boast here? Jun Yu, you have simply thrown away the face of the royal sacred sect." As the sound of his voice faded, the entire crowd was stunned. Jun Yu was a powerful existence at the celestial phenomenon realm, a true disciple of the royal sacred sect. Yet, he was actually scared away by Qin Wentian. If what Qin Wentian said was true, it would truly be too shameful. However, they didn't really believe it. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Qin Wentian's talent, but rather, his cultivation base was simply too low. How could he contend against Jun Yu, who was at the celestial phenomenon realm? However, Jun Yu's countenance grew increasingly unsightly, causing many in the crowd to believe in Qin Wentian's words. Even if you have the sacred royal medallion in your hands, you have yet to officially join the sect. How dare you be so disrespectful to me? A violent surge of energy gushed forth from Jun Yu as he lunged towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian had no fear at all, the long spear in his hand was still pointed at Jun Yu. What a joke, I merely cultivated a few years earlier than you. If you and I were in the same generation, I'm afraid there wouldn't be a person named Jun Yu in this world. In the future, when I break through to celestial phenomenon, you will be nothing more than an ant before me, I will directly trample you to death. The Pill Emperor Hall was originally Qin Wentian's mortal enemy. Sooner or later, he would go to the Pill Emperor Hall to pull out the demon sword and raze the entire place to the ground. Jun Yu was also his mortal enemy, as long as he could find the slightest opportunity, he would definitely kill him. There was nothing for him to be afraid of. How dare you be disrespectful to your elders? I, Jun Yu, will not kill you today, but I will still teach you a lesson so that you won't forget your mistakes. Jun Yu coldly snorted. His palms abruptly turned incomparably hot as a terrifying wheel of fire appeared in his palms, resembling a terrifying miniature sun as he grabbed towards Qin Wentian below. The space between the two of them was filled with boundless radiance as the flames towered up into the sky, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble. The disciples of the royal sacred sect were indeed tyrannical. Even if this strike didn't kill Qin Wentian, it was sufficient to heavily injure him. Bzzz. At this moment, a beam of light flashed through the air. In that instant, a towering sword might envelop the entire training ground, instantly slashing apart the palm imprints that were blasting towards Qin Wentian, tearing apart the blazing flames, causing fiery light to illuminate the skies. Jun Yu's countenance gleamed with sharpness as he turned his gaze in the direction of the sword. It was none other than the Battle Sword sect. The spectators in the surroundings were all shocked. The Battle Sword sect actually acted to obstruct Jun Yu's attack. No matter what, Jun Yu was the personal disciple of an elder of the royal sacred sect. Although the 9 great sects belonged to different factions, they still had to give him some face, right? If the Battle Sword sect acted now, they would undoubtedly offend Jun Yu. If Jun Yu was just an ordinary disciple of the royal sacred sect, none of the 9 great sects would care about him. After all, the 9 great sects had roots in the royal sacred sect. But Jun Yu himself was the personal disciple of an elder of the royal sacred sect. Hence, if anyone wanted to offend him, they would have to consider carefully. But the Battle Sword sect didn't hesitate to slash out a sword. My Battle Sword sect came to Xian King City to recruit disciples, we didn't come here to watch a disciple of the royal sacred sect strut around. Step down. Lin Shuai's voice was just like him, simple and sharp. A baleful aura flickered in the center of Jun Yu's brows as he stared at Lin Shuai. This is my business, what does it have to do with you? You dare to obstruct me? Lin Shuai placed his hands behind his back as a melodious sound rang out. His sword was slowly unsheathed, gleaming with a cold light. This scene caused Jun Yu's countenance to turn even colder. The 9 great sects are all under the royal sacred sect. I'll say it one more time, whoever dares to interfere with the recruitment test of my battle sword sect, even if you and I are from the same sect in name, don't forget that the royal sacred sect won't interfere in a personal grudge. Lin Shuai's voice was as simple and direct as ever, the threat in his words was unmasked. This caused Jun Yu's aura to surge up into the skies as he lunged towards Lin Shuai. Senior Jun Yu. At this moment, a voice drifted over from the direction of the royal clan. Jun Yu turned his gaze over, it was none other than the golden-eyed young man, Shang Tong. Jun Yu naturally recognized Shang Tong. Back then when he personally paid a visit to the royal clan of Grand Shang, he had met Shang Tong before. This person's talent was simply too terrifying, he had long since been bestowed a sacred royal medallion by the royal clan. In fact, there was even a possibility that Shang Tong wouldn't even need to undergo the recruitment test and would be directly sent into the royal sacred sect. In the future, Shang Tong would definitely become an extremely important character in the royal sacred sect. "I King, what's the matter?" Jun Yu politely nodded his head to Shang Tong. "Since today is the recruitment day of the 9 great sects, let the juniors settle these grudges and grudges." Shang Tong's golden eyes gleamed with sharpness. Jun Yu glanced at the people around Shang Tong and instantly understood that Shang Tong was giving him face, wanting to help him deal with Qin Wentian within the rules of the royal sacred sect. "Since the I King has spoken, I temporarily won't teach this brat a lesson today." Jun Yu nodded his head. After which, he turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian once more. "I really want to see if you can leave this place alive today." The experts from the major powers in Xianqing City were all filled with excitement when they heard this. If the I King was willing to help, Qin Wentian would most probably die today. Qin Wentian also turned his gaze onto Shang Tong. Earlier when he wanted to kill Shang Qi, it was this person who reminded Shang Qi that he had changed his visage. The golden eyes of this person were extremely sinister, as though they could see through everything. At this moment, Shang Tong also happened to be looking at him. Their gazes locked, and within that pair of resplendent golden eyes, Qin Wentian could see an air of arrogance, unexcelled in the world. But wasn't Qin Wentian the same as well? His countenance was as sharp as swords, erupting forth from his eyes as their gazes collided in the air. Interesting. The corners of Shang Tong's lips curled up in a cold arc, and at the same time, Jun Yu also walked to his side. Instantly, someone stepped aside to allow Jun Yu to sit down. Qin Wentian didn't seem to mind at all. He turned his gaze onto the experts from the 9 great sects as he smiled. "Are the 9 great sects still willing to recruit me into their sects?" As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of the crowd turned to the 9 great sections. Right now, if there were still any sects that wanted to recruit Qin Wentian, not only would they have to offend Jun Yu, they would also have to offend the I King, Shang Tong, and the Grand Shang Empire behind him. For the sake of Qin Wentian, was it worth it? And as expected, no one else dared to speak. Only the experts from the Great Earth sect laughed. "Our Great Earth sect will never change our original intentions." "Many thanks, Senior." Qin Wentian stared in the direction of the Great Earth sect. He had no idea what the Great Earth sect was thinking. Ever since he left the Sky Harmony City, he had roamed the continent for close to 10 years, and his personality had grown increasingly cautious. "After passing the test, you will be a member of my battle sword sect. No one would dare to bully you. Naturally, if you wish to leave, no one would dare to stop you." Lin Shuai faintly spoke. It was rare for the battle sword sect to express their stance. Earlier, when the other 9 great sects were trying to recruit Qin Wentian, the battle sword sect didn't say anything at all. Who would have thought that when Qin Wentian was in an awkward situation, the battle sword sect not only acted for him, they even said such words. This caused many to sigh in their hearts. The Battle Sword Sect was indeed the Battle Sword Sect, they had such character. Many thanks, Senior, but Junior is in no hurry. Qin Wentian nodded to Lin Shui from the Battle Sword Sect. Right now, out of the 9 great sects, he had the most favorable impression of the Battle Sword Sect. Lin Shui from the Battle Sword Sect had already said that if he wished to leave, no one would dare to stop him. Such an attitude was extraordinary, it was just like the rumors he had heard about the Battle Sword Sect. Qin Wentian wielded the long spear in his hands, standing in the middle of the training ground with his eyes closed. At the same time, in the direction of Grand Shang, a few young men from Shangtong's side stood up, causing the eyes of the experts from the Xian King Manor to gleam with a terrifying light. Qin Wentian was dead for sure. These people were the strongest batch of geniuses the Grand Shang Empire had ever recruited. They were all from the War King Hall, and in the future, they would all be able to enter the Royal Sacred Sect, paving the way for the most outstanding descendants of the Grand Shang Empire. Chapter 5:12. Upon seeing the 3 silhouettes before the I King walking towards the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation, those who knew of their identities all sighed in their hearts. Qin Wentian was finished this time around. The Warlord Hall was a place where the Grand Shang Empire specially nurtured the most outstanding of the younger generations. There were all sorts of cultivation arts and innate techniques there, and being able to enter the Warlord Hall was a great honor to many. This meant that they had entered the core of Grand Shang, becoming a trusted aide of the royal clan and would receive the best nurturing. The younger princes were all cultivating in the Warlord Hall, each leading a group of geniuses. These people would be the foundation for them to contend for supremacy, and in the future, they would accompany them to rule the world. The various princes of the royal clan would often have conflicts because of the competition for the geniuses of the War King Hall. All of them wanted the best geniuses to follow them, vying for supremacy in the Royal Sacred Sect, becoming characters of the Royal Sacred Sect, able to command an entire region. This was what true authority was, even greater compared to the authority of the royal clan of Grand Shang. Although the Grand Shang Empire could rule over a vast territory, there were still the 9 great sects and the Grand Zhou Empire that could contend against them. In fact, in the sacred royal region, there were many extremely tyrannical powers under the 9 great sects that wouldn't listen to the commands of the Grand Shang Empire, not giving them any face at all. Only the Royal Sacred Sect was the absolute hegemon of the Grand Shang Empire. At this moment, 3 experts from the Warlord Hall walked out, and their cultivation bases were all extremely high. Although Qin Wentian's talent was extraordinary, he would still be defeated by them. However, this Qin Wentian was truly arrogant. He wasn't in a hurry to join the Great Earth Sect or pass the test of the Battle Sword Sect. He simply stood there in the middle of the training ground, closing his eyes and waiting quietly. He had no fear at all, and in his eyes, so what if the Warlord Hall was from the Grand Shang Empire? He would still be waiting for them. The spectators also didn't know if Qin Wentian had absolute confidence in himself, or if he didn't know the depths of the Warlord Hall. Hence, he made such a rash decision. Although the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation was powerful, it basically couldn't obstruct the 3 experts from the Warlord Hall. The 3 of them used tyrannical methods to trample over the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. Before absolute strength, there was nothing that could obstruct them. Upon seeing such strength, the crowd couldn't help but feel worried for Qin Wentian. This young man who dared to challenge Junyu, a disciple of the Royal Sacred Sect, would be as domineering as before. The experts from the 6 great sects of Xian King City all had killing intent in their eyes. This time around, Qin Wentian would die for sure. Shang Tong was the I King of Grand Shang. What sort of character was he? If he wanted Qin Wentian to die, how could Qin Wentian still be alive? In the entire Grand Shang Empire, there were only a few who could defy this young I King. After the 3 of them stepped onto the martial arts field, one of them strolled towards Qin Wentian. His domineering eyes stared at Qin Wentian. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through a person's body. It was extremely sharp. "You have to die." That person roared. Instantly, a brilliant light illuminated the skies as his astral souls and astral novas erupted forth. Golden sharpness manifested in the air as a terrifying vortex manifested there. It was as though even weapons and sabers would be sucked into that vortex, being shredded into dust. In front of that vortex, numerous incomparably fearsome golden spears could be seen, capable of penetrating through everything. This person erupted forth with the aura of a sixth-level Heavenly Dipper sovereign the moment he appeared. The instant he released his aura, ordinary sixth-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns would have to prostrate themselves before him. That terrifying pressure frenziedly gushed towards Qin Wentian, as though it wanted to tear Qin Wentian's body into pieces. Qin Wentian released his fourth astral nova as the king's sword floated in the air. Sword Qi ravaged the air, wanting to tear apart everything, as though wanting to force the myriad of enemies to submit. The windstorm that was gushing towards him was all torn apart, blocked outside, unable to corrode his body. His entire person was enveloped by a screen of light. "You are not worthy." Qin Wentian's voice was ice cold. That person snorted coldly, and instantly, the golden spears above his head erupted forth, streaking through the air, resembling golden bolts of lightning as they shot towards Qin Wentian. The might they exuded seemed to be able to penetrate through everything. Bzzz. Qin Wentian's heavenly astral sword slashed out, causing the air to tremble as it blocked the golden spears. Humming sounds rang out unceasingly as the astral novas of the two of them clashed against each other. An incomparably sharp tempest ravaged the platform, causing the eyes of that person to flash with a cold smile. "Your astral novas are very powerful, but you won't be able to escape the fate of death." As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying devouring energy gushed forth from him. Qin Wentian's black robes fluttered in the wind as he lost control of his body and was about to be sucked into the tempest. The heavenly astral sword hovering above his head also felt the terrifying devouring tempest. The long spears in Qin Wentian's hands abruptly vanished, causing the eyes of the spectators to gleam with sharpness. Was this fellow crazy? He actually kept his long spear away at this moment. At this moment, they discovered that Qin Wentian's body was undergoing a transformation. His body was covered with a layer of demonic armor, as though he was clad in a divine weapon. His arms were like the arms of demons, exuding a boundless sharpness. His vitality flourished as his blood thrummed, emitting terrifying rumbling sounds. He seemed to be a descendant of a demon king from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Standing there, he was like the sovereign of the demon world. "You are still far from it." Qin Wentian took a step forward as a thunderous boom rang out, causing the earth to tremble. It was unknown how terrifying the devouring energy was, but he ignored it and continued forward. As his brows furrowed, a fearsome will of mandates gushed into his opponent's sea of consciousness. However, Qin Wentian's opponent's will was exceedingly powerful, he was actually able to use his tyrannical will to resist. Frowning, his opponent's silhouette flickered as he dashed towards Qin Wentian. With a wave of his hand, countless sharp weapons instantly shot towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian slammed out with his palms as bell chimes rang out. His opponent's heart pounded violently, as though it was about to be torn apart. "Return!" Qin Wentian blasted out with another palm strike, causing the entire space to tremble. A supreme might gushed forth, actually sweeping everything back. "Humph!" that person coldly snorted as the devouring energy grew increasingly terrifying. It was like the mandate of devouring was capable of devouring everything. Boundless attacks were swept into the air, converging into the tempest, causing the formless shockwaves to be weakened by several degrees. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he executed stellar transposition. His entire person was like a bolt of lightning as he appeared before his opponent. A ferocious punch blasted out, destroying everything in its path. His opponent could feel the ferocity of the punch, yet his countenance didn't change at all. He placed his palms before his chest and abruptly clasped them together, directly blocking Qin Wenqian's attack. A fearsome devouring energy gushed forth, causing Qin Wenqian's blood to flow outwards. His attacks were being devoured unceasingly. What a powerful mandate of devouring! Qin Wenqian's heart trembled as a terrifying light shot out from the center of his brows. At the same time, his martial spirit, Dreamscape, manifested. His opponent closed his eyes, as though he didn't want to be disturbed. However, the mandate of devouring directly gushed into his mind as numerous scarlet demon halberds pierced towards his head. That's fake. His countenance was like lightning. Relying solely on his perception, he tightly grabbed onto Qin Wenqian's fist, devouring the energy within. I'll let you devour it. A voice thundered in his mind. After which, he felt a surge of bloodline energy gushing into his body, being devoured by him. But at this moment, the blood-colored light directly corroded his body, akin to a destructive curse, destroying the life force in his body. Not good. His countenance drastically changed as he abruptly retracted his hand. But at the same instant, the blood-colored light frenziedly gushed into his body, destroying all life force. His body started to corrode, turning into dried bones and puddles of blood. However, at this moment, the spectators all had strange expressions on their faces. This expert had the strength to contend against Qin Wenqian. Why did he suddenly stop? He clearly still had the strength to continue fighting, yet he actually gave up all resistance as his body collapsed onto the ground. Careful! Someone behind him warned. That expert abruptly opened his eyes only to see Qin Wenqian right in front of him. Qin Wenqian's palms were frenziedly blasting out, causing the expert's countenance to turn pale white. That was the dreamscape. Ultimately, he was still invaded by the dream force. Bang! As the palms slammed down, it was as though an ancient bell had directly smashed into his heart. Boundless pulsating waves of energy gathered towards his heart, causing him to cough out fresh blood. His heart was destroyed, and he died instantly. The experts from the War Emperor Hall of Grand Shang were all killed. The other two experts rushed over, only to see Qin Wenqian's palms blotting out the sky. He directly blasted out a blood-colored curse imprint. The two of them slammed out with their palms at the same time, causing a raging tempest to arise. With a thunderous boom, the two of them only felt a terrifying corrosive energy gushing into their bodies, causing their astral novas to erupt violently. Boom! The sound of the bell rang out, causing their hearts to tremble, causing them to groan in pain. But even so, they still didn't hesitate to rush forward. Stellar transposition, Qin Wenqian's silhouette vanished once more. Their perception was terrifying, and they abruptly turned around. Swish! The keening of a sword, the will of the mandate of sword melody at the transformation boundary. Two beams of blood-colored light slashed towards the throats of the two experts. They explosively retreated as boundless energy gathered at their throats. Boom! Qin Wenqian vanished once more, slashing out with another sword strike. This time around, it was aimed at their backs. Scram! The two of them were forced into such a sorry state. Both of them were enraged, and they stabbed out with their fingers, causing the space around them to tremble. But at this moment, a scarlet demon halberd appeared, directly slashing towards them. The will of the dream devil gushed into their minds, causing the color of the sky to change. Puchi! A light sound rang out as one of them died. His head was pierced through by the scarlet demon halberd. The other expert wanted to flee, yet he only saw the scarlet demon halberd slicing through his head as the crescent moon blade sliced through it. Another light sound rang out as the arm of the last expert was severed. He screamed in agony. He finally managed to extricate himself from the dream devil state. Although it was only for an instant, it was like a nightmare to him. It's the power of dreams. That expert roared, causing the hearts of the crowd to tremble. They finally understood why Qin Wentian's spear was so invincible. So it turned out that every single spear strike of his contained the power of dreams. And now, he even used the Scarlet Demon Halberd. Puchi. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Wentian's silhouette directly appeared. The Scarlet Demon Halberd had no way to block it, it pierced right into Qin Wentian's body. Release him. A thunderous roar reverberated throughout the entire training field. The crowd turned their gazes over and saw the Eye King standing up. His eyes were terrifying. Out of the 3 experts under him, 2 had already fallen. This was a slap to his face. Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Shang Tong. His eyes were filled with an unbridled arrogance as he stared at Shang Tong. Puchi. A light sound rang out, the Scarlet Demon Halberd directly pierced into his opponent's heart, penetrating through his body. After which, the halberd abruptly flung the corpse towards Shang Tong. Boom! The corpse landed accurately at Shang Tong's feet. Qin Wentian pointed the Scarlet Demon Halberd in that direction as a terrifying arrogance flashed in his eyes. He coldly spoke, "Who the hell do you think you are? Are you even qualified to command me?" Chapter 513. Qin Wentian's tyrannical voice caused the entire space to turn silent. Not only did he speak arrogantly, he even pointed the halberd in his hands at the Eye King, radiating a terrifying blood-colored light. It was as though he was saying, "If you, Shang Tong, come up here, I dare to use my halberd to chop you down from the battle platform." The experts from the 6 transcendent powers of Xian King City were all stunned by Qin Wentian's domineering attitude. Towering killing intent gushed forth in their hearts. This Qin Wentian actually dared to openly challenge the Eye King's prestige. This time around, there was no way he could survive. What level of talent was the Eye King? How could he allow a nobody to challenge him? Even if this person's combat prowess was terrifying, so what of it? He was the Eye King, one of the most doted upon princes of the royal sacred sect. In the future, he might even become a heaven chosen of the royal sacred sect, or an existence that could control the entire Grand Shang Empire. There had never been anyone who dared to defy him before, let alone provoke him. Once, there was a great sect in Grand Shang Empire that was extremely arrogant because of their strength. The young master of that sect was also a heaven's chosen, extremely dazzling, and felt that his status wasn't inferior to the Eye King. Once, he fought with the Eye King for a treasure, and in the end, the young master of that sect was killed by the Eye King on the streets. That sect wanted to take revenge on the Eye King, seeking justice from the royal clan. But in the end, that sect disappeared from Grand Shang, razed to flat ground. From then on, who in Grand Shang Empire didn't know that some people were destined to be existences they couldn't afford to antagonize? Let alone the fact that the Eye King had already started his path of rise. His cultivation base was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, his combat prowess was as high as the heavens, and he had even slain a demon-level character at the 7th level of Heavenly Dipper. He had many trump cards up his sleeves, and just based on his talent alone, he already had an extremely high combat prowess. At this moment, his gaze was fixed on Qin Wentian. That pair of golden eyes of his seemed to be able to suck Qin Wentian in. That terrifying beam of light contained a fearsome mandate. Qin Wentian actually felt a golden beast lunging towards him, incomparably ferocious, wanting to tear his will apart. However, how strong was Qin Wentian's will? As long as the Scarlet Demon Halberd was pointed at him, there would be nothing for him to fear. His eyes met Shang Tong's, and similarly, a terrifying will energy gushed into Shang Tong's eyes, as though they were engaged in a battle of wills. "Do you know who you're talking to?" An old man beside Shang Tong coldly spoke, glaring at Qin Wentian as killing intent gushed out from him. Qin Wentian glanced at the old man, revealing a look of contempt. He had already sent someone to kill him, yet he still wanted to reveal his identity to intimidate him. What was the point? Since they were mortal enemies, they had to kill each other regardless of their identities. You killed my subordinates, so I should personally kill you. However, this is the examination battlefield of the 9 great sects. If I make a move, I will be degrading myself. Shang Tong spoke indifferently as if he was telling Qin Wentian that it would be an extremely easy thing for him to kill Qin Wentian. However, he felt that his status was respected, so he disdained to make a move against Qin Wentian. Either come up or shut your mouth. Who doesn't know how to speak arrogant words? What's the point? Qin Wentian emotionlessly replied to Shang Tong. You are right. Who doesn't know how to speak arrogant words? I once killed my way out of an army of thousands of men and horses, undergoing hellish tempering. The cultivation bases of those I killed were all higher than me. If you can survive today, maybe you will have the qualifications to be my opponent in the future. At that time, I will kill you again. Shang Tong faintly spoke. He was the I King, a heaven chosen of the royal Shang Empire. He was one of the most dazzling characters in the younger generation of Grand Shang. Although this Qin Wentian had provoked him, given his status and cultivation base, if he directly acted to suppress Qin Wentian, although it was simple, he would definitely be criticized by others. But since Qin Wentian was rude to him, there was naturally no way he would spare him. Hence, he said that if Qin Wentian could survive today, only then would he have the qualifications to be his opponent. Sorry, I've never seen you as my opponent. If you were at the 4th level of Heavenly Dipper, I could trample you to death with a single stomp. Qin Wentian faintly replied. Although his words were arrogant, the spectators couldn't help but to ponder. This man didn't even need to unleash a second spear strike to kill 5th level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns, he could even kill 6th level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns. If a 4th level Heavenly Dipper sovereign was at the same level as him, it would truly be insufficient. If the I King, Shang Tong, was at the same level as him, and the two of them fought, who would be the stronger one? It was truly hard to say. However, Shang Tong, who was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, was clearly stronger than Qin Wentian. There was no doubt about this. There's no point in talking so much. I want to see how you can survive today. Shang Tong's voice was extremely calm from the start, exuding an aura of disdain. He stared at the crowd as he spoke, whoever kills him shall be rewarded with a heaven-mending pill. As the sound of Shang Tong's voice faded, it instantly caused a huge commotion. The entire space was in an uproar, incomparably shocked. Many people had expressions of madness on their faces. The heaven-mending pill was able to make up for the disadvantages of astral souls, allowing one's astral nova to condense even more astral energy, increasing the power and attack power of the astral nova. Naturally, this pill couldn't be used to defy the heavens. Although the heaven-mending pill could strengthen one's astral nova, it was only limited to this level. If one stepped into the celestial phenomenon realm, the talent of others would still be able to leave you in the dust. But no matter what, the temptation of the heaven-mending pill to Heavenly Dipper sovereigns was simply too great. Not only that, this pill was extremely rare, a 5th-ranked pill that was extremely valuable. Even if you had a shocking amount of wealth, you wouldn't be able to purchase it. The reason why Shang Tong was able to take out so many pills was because he was a prince of the Grand Shang Empire and had an esteemed status. The Grand Shang Empire had its own pill concoction hall and had recruited the best alchemy grandmasters in Grand Shang. Naturally, Shang Tong would be able to take out the best pills. Especially now that there were many outstanding Heavenly Dipper sovereigns who were preparing to participate in the recruitment test of the Royal Sacred Sect. They would naturally be facing the gathering of heroes from all over the world, and naturally they would have to make the most preparations, using their strongest stance to welcome the challenge, striving to enter the Royal Sacred Sect, ascending to the heavens with a single step. The heaven-mending pill captured their hearts. Many experts were itching to give it a try. A single person wouldn't be able to kill Qin Wentian, but if a group of experts attacked together, no matter how strong Qin Wentian was, he would still die. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to the crowd. He discovered that even some of the disciples from the 9 great sects had expressions of interest on their faces, as though they were thinking of killing him. Only to see that at this moment, he could sense an expert from the Great Earth sect stealthily retreating, walking down the spectator stands. After which, he discovered an expert from the Violet Thunder sect stealthily retreating, stepping into the crowd. The experts from the Sky Poison Valley and Blood Devil sect all took a detour, retreating before gathering in the direction of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. As to why they acted, they had already obtained the approval of the elders of their respective sections. Qin Wentian's combat prowess was tyrannical, and his talent was extraordinary. Yet, he had offended so many people. Since they couldn't obtain him, they might as well destroy him. There were also some powers from the 9 great sects that didn't act. They initially wanted to recruit Qin Wentian as their subordinates, but it seemed that Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to escape death. There were even some who wanted to kick Qin Wentian when he was down, thinking that since Qin Wentian wouldn't be able to survive, they might as well snatch the heaven-mending pill. In the direction of the Battle Sword sect, Lin Shuai coldly laughed in his heart when he saw this scene. These great sects truly had the same style as before. If they couldn't obtain something, they would destroy it. Your actions are truly disappointing. If those from the 9 great sects act, you guys can go and experience it for yourselves. Lin Shuai spoke to the people behind him, his words causing the hearts of many to tremble. The Battle Sword sect didn't even bother to conceal their intentions, directly wanting to help Qin Wentian. Could it be that this battle would evolve into a battle between the 9 great sects? Humph, someone coldly snorted, but the voice was ethereal, nobody knew where it originated from. Qin Wentian silently rejoiced in his heart that he didn't make his choice too early. When he was in Grand Xia, he had already experienced the various transcendent powers. Everyone in the world would do anything for the sake of benefits. If he wanted to join a sect, he would naturally choose the most suitable one. The Battle Sword sect has always done things as they please. But this time around, do you want to be embroiled in the battle between me and him? Don't forget, I will also be participating in the examination of the Royal Sacred Sect. At that time, if those from the Battle Sword sect participate, Shang Tong coldly snorted, actually threatening the Battle Sword sect. You still don't have the qualifications to speak to me like this. Lin Shuai's eyes turned over, staring at Shang Tong. Instantly, numerous sharp swords pierced towards Shang Tong, causing him to explosively retreat. At the same time, the experts from Grand Shang rushed out, slamming out with their palms as the sharp swords whistled through the air, piercing through the air. Lin Shuai's gaze slowly shifted over, no longer looking at Shang Tong. He then spoke, next time when you speak to elders, be more polite. As expected of the Battle Sword sect. Domineering and fearless. The spectators didn't expect that a conflict would erupt between the Battle Sword sect and Shang Tong. This battle was getting more and more fascinating. It was said that the Battle Sword sect had always been at odds with the Battle Sword sect, and it was the same in the Royal Sacred sect as well. Shang Tong's countenance grew incredibly unsightly. This person actually dared to directly act against him. His golden eyes turned cold as he icily spoke, I will remember the matters today. In the future, during the examination of the Royal Sacred Sect, I will make you all regret it. If this place wasn't the territory of the Grand Shang Empire, based on your words of threat to the Battle Sword Sect, I would have already killed you directly. Lin Shuai's eyes were emotionless, he couldn't even be bothered to look at Shang Tong. He had always done things as he pleased, how could he allow a junior to threaten him? When the crowd heard Lin Shuai's words, they didn't doubt his words at all. If this place wasn't the Xian King city of Grand Shang, Lin Shuai might really dare to do some crazy things. Shang Tong coldly snorted again, he didn't say anything more and returned to his seat. Qin Wentian witnessed everything. He originally came here today to kill the 6 chosen, but he didn't expect that his identity would be exposed, causing a storm to erupt once more, and even causing the 9 great sects to be implicated. However, this storm caused him to have a clearer understanding of the 9 great sections. His understanding of them was no longer limited to the rumors he heard before. Since I want to join a sect, I should do it with a bang, telling the sect that their judgment wasn't wrong. Qin Wentian abruptly spoke, his words causing the gazes of the crowd to turn to him. Qin Wentian slowly walked out, walking in the direction of the Qinghua mountain. After which, he wrapped his arms around the mountain and extended his perception outwards. After which, he abruptly exerted force, causing rumbling sounds to echo out as the mountain was directly lifted 3 feet off the ground. He passed the test of the Qinghua mountain. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian placed the ancient mountain down. He retrieved his long spear and walked in the direction of the Great Earth sect. Staring at the Great Earth puppet, his silhouette flickered as he stabbed out with his spear, causing the entire space to tremble. The instant the long spear landed on the body of the Great Earth puppet, the pulsating energy of the Great Earth puppet engulfed every part of it, crushing it into dust. In an instant, the Great Earth puppet exploded. The test of the Great Earth sect passed. Chapter 5:14. What is he trying to do? Qin Wentian consecutively passed the tests of 2 great sects, causing the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. For the tests of the 9 great sects, regardless of the Qinghua Mountains or the Great Earth sect, they were all exceedingly difficult to pass. Only a select few would be able to join the 9 great sections. However, Qin Wentian easily passed the tests of the Qinghua Mountains and the Great Earth sect. Such dominance caused the hearts of the spectators to seethe with excitement. The young man on the stage walked towards the direction of the Violet Thunder sect. Staring at the silhouette of the puppet bathed in violet lightning, he stepped out. Has he gone mad? Could it be that he wants to pass all the tests of the 9 great sects? Qin Wentian's actions shocked everyone. The countenances of the experts from the 6 transcendent powers all turned ashen. It was already extremely difficult for the geniuses of their sects to pass the test, yet Qin Wentian was able to pass it so effortlessly. At this moment, everyone was thinking that the deaths of the geniuses from their sects weren't unjust. Boom! Qin Wentian stepped out as Sword Qi howled in rage. The puppet of Violet Thunder punched out, yet Qin Wentian's countenance didn't change at all. He continued to take a total of 5 steps, and on the 5th step, Qin Wentian groaned in agony. This caused the spectators to silently muse that although Qin Wentian was domineering, the tests of the 9 great sects weren't so simple. Most probably, the Violet Thunder sect wouldn't be able to pass the final 2 attacks. Boom! Qin Wentian took a 6th step, the puppet of Violet Thunder punched out for the 6th time. This time around, the lightning and the sword might collided, causing thunderous rumbling sounds to echo out unceasingly. Qin Wentian's countenance was as calm as ever as he forcefully took the 7th step. As his foot landed, the entire space around him was enveloped by an overwhelming killing intent, sweeping everything away. The puppet of Violet Thunder punched out for the 7th time, colliding with the sword Qi and dissipating it. Qin Wentian flicked his sleeves as he turned and departed. It was as though the test of the Violet Thunder sect was nothing to him, not even worthy of a mention. The 3 great sects are too domineering. This fellow's talent is too terrifying. The experts from the 9 great sects have already started to enter the Violet Thunder sword drum formation to kill him, yet he still wants to pass the tests of the other 6 great sects. Next, under the shocked gazes of the spectators, Qin Wentian lifted the axe of the heaven-cleaving manner and cleaved it apart, forcibly passing the test. During the Divine Dragon Castle's test, he transformed into a terrifying demonic dragon and soared into the sky. He fought against the illusory demonic dragon and finally broke the dragon formation. For the test of the Blood Devil Palace, the blood in Qin Wentian's body seethed with excitement. He had no fear of anything as he bathed in blood and slaughtered his way through the formation of a devil nest, passing the test. Then, under everyone's shocked gazes, he forcefully passed the Sky Poison Valley's test. The test of the forgotten Immortal Tower was extremely terrifying. It was an illusory formation formed by a group of beautiful women, filled with temptation that could cause people to sink into endless lust, unable to extricate themselves. However, Qin Wentian's state of mind was extremely resolute. He remained unmoved. No matter how many beautiful women there were, they were all like skeletons in front of him. He disregarded everything and wasn't tempted at all. He passed the test of the forgotten Immortal Tower and even passed the tests of the 8 great sections. Everyone was already numb to Qin Wentian's domineering strength. Finally, he walked to the entrance of the Battle Sword Sect. For the test of the Battle Sword Sect, if one didn't have a resolute heart, they would die for sure. This was something Lin Shuai had said before. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate at all. He stepped into the sword qi, basking in its might. There was no fear in his heart was filled with sincerity and determination. Step by step, millions of sword qi pierced through his body, yet his heart didn't waver. Finally, he stepped out and passed the test of the Battle Sword Sect. The tests of the 9 great sects were all passed. The entire space was silent. Qin Wentian acted as though there was no one else present. Domineeringly passing the tests of the 9 great sects caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. Those who passed the tests earlier were initially feeling complacent, but now, their complacency had completely vanished. Compared to Qin Wentian, what they had achieved was not even worth mentioning. Madman! Ji Shui was deeply shocked by what Qin Wentian had done. He was crazy when he was seizing the constellation fruits, and now, he was even crazier. Indeed, he's too crazy. Su Feng was also shocked, as great waves rose in his heart. He knew that his talent wasn't weak, but right now, he felt that it was ridiculous. So it turned out that some people could really be so outstanding. Even for Qin Wentian's enemies, they were all stunned by what he had accomplished. The countenances of the experts from the 6 great sects were all incredibly ugly to behold, but the killing intent in their hearts grew increasingly intense. Shang Yu's beautiful eyes froze. Once, when Qin Wentian fought against her for the spatial brush, she was still high and mighty, thinking that he was just an ordinary mortal. Yet, he actually dared to fight against her. He simply didn't know the immensity of death. But now, when she stared at the black-robed young man, she couldn't help but feel a sense of inferiority. This was someone who dared to oppose the disciple of an elder of the royal sacred sect, Junyu. He even dared to point his divine weapon at Junyu and Shang Tong. All of these were things she didn't dare to do. No matter how crazy you are, you still have to die. Junyu's countenance was incredibly unsightly to behold. In Grand Xia, he had already experienced Qin Wentian's craziness. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate to pay any price to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay, causing the great Solar Qin clan to walk towards their doom. But since he was his enemy, he might as well kill him as soon as possible. The higher his talent, the more he had to die. Many experts from the 9 great sects had already passed the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation when Qin Wentian passed the test. They had personally witnessed how tyrannical Qin Wentian was, but this didn't hinder the killing intent in their hearts. They had to obtain the heaven-mending pill for sure. Only then would they have a higher chance of becoming a disciple of the royal sacred sect, and they participated in the recruitment test. As they thought of this, they surrounded Qin Wentian. Evidently, they weren't prepared to fight against Qin Wentian one by one. The deaths of the 3 subordinates of Shang Tong were still fresh in their minds. How could they allow the same thing to happen again? Although it would be somewhat embarrassing to surround and kill Qin Wentian, they couldn't care less. The experts from the 9 great sects felt their hearts twitching when they saw this scene. They had personally witnessed how Qin Wentian passed the test and faintly felt as though they had missed out on something. But now, there was no path of retreat. Since they couldn't obtain Qin Wentian, they had to destroy him. If the other sects managed to obtain a demon-level talent, it would definitely be a threat to their sect. Given the current situation, there was an 80 to 90% chance that Qin Wentian would join the Battle Sword sect. The Battle Sword sect had chosen to act for him at the most crucial moment. Qin Wentian didn't even glance at the experts surrounding him. After passing the test, he turned his gaze in the direction of the Battle Sword sect as a smile appeared on his face. Junior wants to borrow the opportunity of the 9 great sects to knock down the mountain gate of the Battle Sword sect. As the sound of his voice faded, silence filled the air. As expected, Qin Wentian had decided to join the Battle Sword sect. The experts from the Battle Sword sect all stood up. Lin Shuai also stood up with a smile on his face. He had originally said this on behalf of Qin Wentian. Even if Qin Wentian didn't open his mouth, he would have officially invited Qin Wentian to join the Battle Sword sect. After all, he had passed the test earlier as well. Lin Shuai understood that since Qin Wentian had taken the initiative to say that he wanted to join the Battle Sword sect, he was naturally returning the favor. Since the Battle Sword sect had chosen to act for him, he naturally wanted to enter the Battle Sword sect in the most dazzling manner possible. Without a doubt, the Battle Sword sect would instantly become the center of attention. As expected, the experts from the other 8 great sects felt their hearts turning cold. Qin Wentian had indeed joined the Battle Sword sect. In that case, he couldn't blame them. Naturally, Lin Shuai had a smile on his face as he stared at Qin Wentian. "Come up here now, I want to see who dares to touch you. Killing indiscriminately and yet you want to leave so easily. Ridiculous to the extreme. I'm afraid you won't be able to protect this young man with just a single sentence from you." Jun Yu coldly spoke. How could he allow Qin Wentian to leave with the Battle Sword sect just like that? Although this young man is extraordinary and passed the test of the Battle Sword sect, the matter regarding the training ground has yet to be settled. Let's wait a little longer. An expert from the Violet Thunder sect spoke, wanting to make Qin Wentian stay behind. Killing indiscriminately. A cold smile appeared on Lin Shuai's face. How shameless must one be to say such words? Do you want him to stand there and let your people kill him? So many 6th-level Heavenly Dipper sovereigns died in his hands, and they even joined forces. And now, you guys even sent out over 10 experts of this level. Do you guys still have any face? Beside Lin Shuai, an old man from the Battle Sword sect couldn't stand it any longer as he coldly snorted. Hee, no matter what, so many experts have already entered the training ground. We can't just disperse like this, right? An expert from the Qinghua Mountain spoke, his words causing Qin Wentian's eyes to flicker. Seems like the people from the Qinghua Mountain had rejected his invitation twice, and they were feeling some resentment in their hearts. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he stared in the direction of the Violet Thunder Sword Drum formation. He only saw a silhouette slowly walking over, passing through the formation. Her. Qin Wentian stared at that silhouette. Her countenance was as cold as ice, akin to a snow lotus on an icy mountain. She possessed a supreme beauty, yet she seemed so far out of reach. Her slowly walked out, and an instant later, she stood in front of Qin Wentian, causing several people to notice her presence. What a beautiful woman. Cold, just like a beauty in the snow. Where did she come from? The princess of Xian King City, Shangyu, is extremely famous and has a peerless beauty. But when compared to this woman, she actually pales in comparison. The eyes of many turned sluggish as they stared at Qin, unable to shift their eyes away. Even the experts from the 9 great sects were all stunned by her beauty. Shang Tong's golden eyes gleamed with a resplendent light. He had seen countless beauties in his life, and he had never forgotten to enjoy the pleasures of beauties. Hence, he requested the Xian King City to send Shangyu to the royal palace to be his concubine. But after seeing Qin, his interest in Shangyu actually dimmed significantly. Who are you? Are you willing to join my Grand Shang Empire? Shang Tong stared at Qin, as he spoke. However, Qin didn't even glance at him, directly ignoring his words. Qin Wentian indifferently glanced at Shang Tong, his eyes gleaming with coldness. After which, he turned to Qin and asked in a low voice, "Why are you here?" "I'm here to help you." Qin spoke in a melodious voice. She stared at the silhouettes in front of her as a cold light flickered in her eyes. Qin took a step forward, and in an instant, a terrifying spatial tempest engulfed the entire martial stage. All the experts on the stage felt as though their bodies were bound by the spatial tempest. Their countenances were as pale as paper, and as the tempest swept over them. How powerful, how can she be so powerful? Several experts from the 9 great sects stood up, their eyes gleaming with sharpness. Peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, mandate of space at the perfection boundary of the 2nd level. Qin Wentian was also stunned by the power of Qin Er's will of mandates. She was at the peak of the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, with a mandate at the perfection boundary. Not only that, it was the mandate of space. In this training ground, she was simply an invincible existence. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Qin was so powerful. Chapter 5:15. The cultivation of one's mandate depended purely on one's comprehension. Many cultivators had no way to break through because they were stuck at the boundary of their mandates. Normally speaking, only those at the peak of Heavenly Dipper would have a mandate at the perfection boundary of the 2nd level. In fact, ordinary cultivators wouldn't even be able to do so. But Qin was only at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, yet her mandate of space had already reached the perfection boundary. For those whose mandates were far ahead of their cultivation base, their accomplishments would definitely be terrifying. There was no need to worry about not being able to break through. This was an ironclad rule. Hence, nobody doubted that Qin would step into the celestial phenomenon realm. Although this realm was able to stop countless stellar martial cultivators, it definitely wouldn't be able to stop an existence like her. Mandate of space at the perfection boundary. Shang Tong's golden eyes froze. Earlier, he still wanted to recruit Qin into the royal palace and make her his woman. But now, he understood that he might not be able to control such a person. With a mandate of space at the perfection boundary, in addition to the fact that they were both at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, even he wouldn't have any chance of victory against this woman. But what made it hard for Shang Tong to accept was that such an outstanding woman was actually here to help Qin Wentian. It's her. When Jun Yu saw Qin he immediately recognized her. When he was in Grand Xia, he had met this woman before. Although Qin wasn't very strong to him, he still had a deep impression of her. Her temperament was too extraordinary. Qin I haven't met with any life-threatening danger yet. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Qin as a smile appeared on his face. With over 10 experts at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper joining hands to kill him, he would indeed be in danger. But after all, they hadn't acted yet. If it was before, Qin wouldn't have appeared. But now, Qin actually appeared earlier than expected, causing him to be somewhat taken aback. Seems like as the time they spent together grew longer, Qin was slowly changing. After all, it had been close to 10 years, and Qin had always been accompanying him in the shadows. In the past, she only listened to Fairy Qingmei's orders. Back then, to Qin it was a mission. But now, protecting Qin Wentian was no longer as simple as the mission given to her by Fairy Qingmei. Oh. Qin blinked, and just when Qin Wentian thought that Qin wouldn't continue to bother with him, he heard a reply. But they bullied you. A clear and melodious voice reached Qin Wentian's ears, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. Warmth flowed through his heart. Although it sounded strange, wasn't this just like Qin's personality? A gentle smile could be seen on his face as he stared at the beautiful silhouette in front of him. After which, he took a step forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Qing. Qing, let me do it. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Qing glanced at him before nodding her head, I'll help you from the back. Qin Wentian didn't reject. A violent aura gushed forth from him as he advanced forward. Qing unleashed her mandate of space at the perfection boundary, capable of severing the space between them. Despite their frenzied attacks, they discovered that they had no way to break through the spatial barrier. Bzzz. A raging wind gusted by as Qin Wentian stabbed out with his scarlet demon halberd. The spatial barrier between Qin Wentian and that expert abruptly shattered, causing the countenance of that expert to stiffen. After which, the scarlet demon halberd directly descended upon him as the terrifying power of a dream devil instantly occupied his mind. Numerous terrifying scenes appeared in his mind, a blood-colored space, countless demonic halberds, the heavens and earth darkened. Qin Wentian brandished his scarlet demon halberd, akin to a devil god. That expert had no strength to resist at all. Qin Wentian's mandate of dreams was already at the transformation boundary of the second level. Now that the scarlet demon halberd was augmented, how terrifying would it be? There was no way for that expert to block it. Ping! The scarlet demon halberd directly pierced through the head of that expert, instantly killing him. Qin Wentian's movements didn't pause as he moved towards another expert. Qing stood behind Qin Wentian, acting as his protector. Whenever he moved towards an expert, that expert would be in the same space as Qin Wentian. As for the others, they would be blocked by the mandate of space. Such an innate technique manifested from the mandate of space at the perfection boundary caused the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. Puchi. Another light sound rang out. Very swiftly, another expert fell under the scarlet demon halberd of Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian and his opponent were in the same space, fighting fair and square, killing his opponent. Go. In the direction of the 9 great sects, someone spoke, causing the experts in that space to want to flee. If this continued, they would all be killed by Qin Wentian one by one. No one is allowed to leave. Qing's voice was cold. She clenched her fist as the spatial energy around her grew even more violent. Everyone stared at the golden threads in the air, and to their shock, they discovered that the terrifying spatial energy actually transformed into a spatial prison, trapping everyone in a different space. Spatial prison, what a terrifying innate technique. The experts from the 9 great sects were all stunned by how powerful Qing was. Their experts had already entered the training grounds and were now trapped by the spatial prison. In addition to Qin Wentian's tyrannical strength, he could kill as many people as he wanted. Not too long after, 8 experts successively fell under Qin Wentian's scarlet demon halberd. At this moment, Qin Wentian arrived at another spatial prison. He was facing an expert in blue robes whose eyes flickered with terrifying lightning. Qin Wentian stepped forward and slashed out with his scarlet demon halberd. A terrifying cold light shot out from the center of his brows. A look of wariness appeared on the face of the blue-robed man as he stared at Qin Wentian walking towards him. Just at the instant when that terrifying dreamscape rushed into his mind, the blue-robed man abruptly slammed his palms forward as an umbrella appeared in front of him. This umbrella contained a terrifying amount of lightning, and at the instant the umbrella opened, a bolt of destructive lightning shot towards Qin Wentian. The destructive might contained within the lightning was so strong that it seemed as though it wanted to shatter Qin Wentian's body in an instant. Be careful! Qing shouted. The purple lightning directly destroyed the space around her. Qing's silhouette flickered as she rushed into the spatial prison. Her palms directly slashed towards the blue-robed man. The blue-robed man hurriedly lifted his hands to counterattack as terrifying lightning tore through everything. Rumble. Their attacks collided, and the lightning seemed to be disintegrated. Qing's palms slashed down in anger, imprinting onto the blue-robed man's body. An incomparably terrifying golden light directly tore the blue-robed man's body apart, turning him into nothingness. Only the lightning umbrella remained, falling to the ground. Qin Wentian had already sensed danger the instant his opponent used the lightning umbrella. He instantly executed stellar transposition and retreated, yet the Scarlet Demon halberd didn't slow down at all. But even so, there was still a terrifying amount of lightning energy blasting into his body, causing his skin to split apart as fresh blood flowed out. 5th rank Divine Weapon, an attack-type divine weapon that contains a fearsome lightning attribute. Qin Wentian's lips were filled with blood as his countenance turned pale. He didn't expect his opponent to actually have such a trump card. With a 5th-ranked attack-type divine weapon, his opponent could have easily used it to break apart the spatial prison and escape. Yet, he didn't. Evidently, his opponent was waiting for him to arrive. Evidently, he wanted to kill him and obtain a heaven-mending pill. Idiot. In the direction of the Violet Thunder sect, Yin Ting's uncle cursed in rage. That umbrella was a treasure he had obtained, and it could only be used 5 times. Its pure offensive power was extremely terrifying, and the reason he lent it to his opponent was because he wanted to kill Qin Wentian. Who would have thought that not only did his opponent fail to do so, he even lost his divine weapon? My son! An expert from the Violet Thunder sect roared in a low voice. His eyes were bloodshot as he turned his head, glaring at Yin Ting's uncle. Who are you calling an idiot? I. Yin Ting's uncle trembled as he lowered his head, not daring to say anything more. However, his heart was filled with rage. He had lost such a powerful divine weapon, yet he still failed to kill Qin Wentian. Qing Er's hair fluttered in anger as she sped towards the other spatial prisons. When she saw one of them trying to escape, a terrifying golden light enveloped her, and she actually appeared behind him. She made a grabbing motion, sealing off the space around them. Die! Qing Er roared in rage. Momentarily, that person's body was torn apart. In front of Qing Er, who had a mandate of space at the perfection boundary, he had no way to resist at all. Qing Er, I'm fine. Qin Wentian stood up when he saw the rage in Qing Er's eyes. A smile appeared on his face. Qing Er turned her head back to look at him, but she didn't say anything. This divine weapon is truly powerful, it must be someone from the 9 great sections. Qin Wentian silently mused. He picked up the umbrella, and his sharp eyes swept over the others as he continued his slaughter. Those people all had expressions of despair on their faces. Qin Wentian alone was already tyrannical enough, but with the addition of the monstrous Qing Er, there was no way they could defeat him. The slaughter continued, and not long after, other than those spectators, those who wanted to kill Qin Wentian were all dead. This scene deeply pierced the hearts of the 9 great sections. Not only did they fail to obtain the heaven-mending pellet, they even lost their lives. Using numbers to bully the weak. How ironic. In the direction of the Battle Sword sect, the old man beside Lin Shui swept his gaze over the crowd as he spoke. Is there anyone else who wishes to continue? Those at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, feel free to challenge me. No one replied. Such a situation made everyone understand that if they wanted to continue, they would undoubtedly be courting death. Qing Er's spatial innate technique could isolate people, and in terms of individual combat prowess, within the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, there was no one who could defeat Qing Er or Qin Wentian. Can I also join the Battle Sword sect? Qing Er asked in a light voice. The experts from the Battle Sword sect stared at her. Lin Shui's eyes flickered with a smile. Just based on your mandate of space at the perfection boundary, this test has no meaning to you. You can easily pass it. The other 8 powers from the 9 great sects all felt uncomfortable in their hearts. They had already missed out on Qin Wentian, and now, they had missed out on a second demon-level genius. This caused them to ponder in their hearts. Was it really worth it to lose 2 monstrous geniuses like these and avoid offending Jun Yu and Shang Tong? These 2 are too arrogant. They are stained with blood. We should remove the restriction on our cultivation bases and kill them. In the quiet space, in the direction of the Violet Thunder sect, Yin Ting's uncle roared in rage. He was unwilling to accept this ending. That's right, there shouldn't be a cultivation restriction, an expert from the Yin family agreed. But at this moment, in the direction of the battle sword sect, an old man stood up. This old man appeared extremely calm, yet the crowd only saw his silhouette flickering as he transformed into a beam of sword light, vanishing from sight. There's no restriction on our cultivation bases. Who else still wants to kill the disciples of my battle sword sect? Feel free to speak up. An aged voice rang out. Just now, that beam of sword light appeared in the training field. An old man stood there, looking as ordinary as ever. It was as though he didn't exude any aura. However, that beam of sword light caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. Chapter 5:16. That old man from the battle sword sect stood in the air above the training ground. Although his aura wasn't gushing forth, the 9 great sects all felt a sense of pressure. This old man was definitely a supremely powerful existence. To think that the battle sword sect actually had such a character here. The experts from the Violet Thunder sect all stood up, their hair fluttering in anger. The lightning around them crackled and crackled, as though wanting to annihilate the heavens and earth, destroying everything. You actually dare to humiliate my Violet Thunder sect like this? An expert from the Violet Thunder sect roared in rage. Just because of a single sentence, an expert from his Violet Thunder sect was killed. Not only that, it was done in front of everyone. This was undoubtedly a ruthless slap to the face of their Violet Thunder sect. Not only did you not die after killing the disciples of my battle sword sect, you even dare to shamelessly suggest to lift the restriction on cultivation bases. Do you really think my battle sword sect is so easily bullied? If those from the Violet Thunder sect are unhappy, feel free to come up here. There's no restriction on cultivation bases. That old man coldly snorted, his voice akin to the humming of 10,000 swords, causing the entire space to tremble. It was as though there was a boundless sword chi whistling by their ears, it was extremely unbearable. Too powerful, he was definitely a supremely powerful celestial phenomenon ascendant. He arrogantly said that if the people from the Violet Thunder sect wanted to fight, they could do so. That old man's words were akin to a declaration of war against the Violet Thunder sect. Although the experts from the Violet Thunder sect were enraged, none of them dared to stand out. They were the ones who stood out, yet the old man had already slain one of their experts. At this moment, how could the other sects step out to help them? Good, very good. The leader of the experts from the Violet Thunder sect was infuriated to the extreme. However, he knew that his opponent had heaven-defying methods. If they fought, he would definitely be defeated. Given the way the battle sword sect did things, they might really start a massacre here. To them, this was something they couldn't accept. Even if they were humiliated, they could only swallow it down. If you don't dare to fight, shut up for this old man. That old man coldly snorted. After which, he turned his gaze onto the others, his eyes filled with a tyrannical might as he coldly stated, "Who else wants to challenge me? Those who are at the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper and below can go up at any time. If there's anyone who says there's no restriction on their cultivation base, come up and fight me together." Such arrogant words, it could be said that he didn't put the 9 great sects and the royal clan of Grand Shang in his eyes. But after thinking about it carefully, he realized that the other party did indeed have the qualifications to be arrogant. The strength of this old man caused the Violet Thunder sect to feel such trepidation. Even after death, they didn't dare to accept the challenge. Most probably, no one here dared to say that they could deal with him. As for those below the 6th level of Heavenly Dipper, Qin, and Qin Wentian were invincible. No matter how many there were, they would be able to kill as many as they wanted. Sweeping through everything, nobody could obstruct them. This was talent. Turning their eyes over, the crowd stared at the two figures standing side by side. Qin Wentian was fiendishly handsome and tyrannical, akin to a descendant of an ancient demon king. Qin was incomparably beautiful, yet as cold as ice. She was a peerless beauty. In the battle today, Qin Wentian fought against the other outstanding geniuses, passing the test of the 9 great sections. Although Qin only appeared for a moment, her domineering attitude left an indelible impression in the hearts of the crowd. The two of them stood together, exuding a magnificence that surpassed the generations, causing all the other geniuses to lose their splendor. After joining the Battle Sword sect, their future would surely be even more terrifying. Many mused silently. Most probably, no one would be able to obstruct them today. Don't you think it's a little inappropriate for you to be so domineering in the territory of my Grand Shang Empire? At this moment, an indifferent voice drifted over. The person who spoke was none other than the King of Grand Shang, Shang Tong. No matter what, Xian King City was one of the 7 great royal cities of Grand Shang. Those from the Battle Sword sect simply didn't have it in their eyes at all. Are the people of Grand Shang all so lacking in upbringing? How dare you speak so rudely to your elders? The eyes of the old man from the Battle Sword sect swept over to Shang Tong as a terrifying sharpness gushed forth. Ordering so many people to bully the disciples of my sect. Do you really think that you, a prince, can use your prestige to bully my Battle Sword sect? If you dare to say another word about touching the disciples of my Battle Sword sect, I will kill you on the spot. Do you believe me? As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying might enveloped Shang Tong. The experts beside him all stepped out, blocking in front of Shang Tong. However, the sword chi was too terrifying, it felt as though it could slay Shang Tong at any moment. The disparity between the two of them was simply too great, there was no way to make up for it. Shang Tong was protected by the experts behind him. His golden eyes flickered with a cold light. He didn't expect that there would actually be people who dared to bully him in the territory of Grand Shang. The surrounding space was once again filled with silence, incomparably heavy. Seems like the Battle Sword sect came prepared, there's actually such a powerful expert hidden among them. This trip to the Xian King City was suggested by the Battle Sword sect. Coincidentally, they met Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian, these two supreme geniuses. However, what's the original purpose of the Battle Sword sect? Many people felt puzzled in their hearts. The strength of this old man was extremely terrifying. Before this, he had been quietly sitting among the crowd of people from the Battle Sword sect, not revealing his true strength. Yet, his strength was so overwhelming that it was even stronger than those from the 9 great sections. Is there anyone who dares to step up? Does the other sects in Grand Shang have no one capable? You guys can't even bring out a single decent character, yet you are still so arrogant. Could it be that you only dare to act arrogantly when you have the advantage in numbers? The old man roared again upon seeing the silence in the air. The face of the 9 great sects in Grand Shang has all been thrown away by you guys. This trip is truly disappointing. The countenances of those from the 9 great sects alternated between shades of green and white. Their strength couldn't be compared to the old man, and none of them could deal with Qin Wentian and Qin Wentian. How could they still act arrogantly? They had completely lost their confidence. If they were weak, they could only be suppressed by others. Even if they were humiliated, they could only swallow it down. Since there's no one here, Lin Shuai, let's return. The old man spoke. Those from the Battle Sword sect all stood up as sword chi towered up into the heavens. They all stepped on their swords, preparing to soar into the skies at any moment. The old man waved his hand as a beam of sword light appeared beside Qin Wentian and Qin. He then spoke to them, "Ride on my sword." The distance between the Xian King City and the Battle Sword sect was a distance of 200,000 miles. Given Qin Wentian's speed, it would take him several days to reach there. But given the strength of that old man, it wouldn't take too long. Celestial phenomenon ascendants had inconceivably fast speed, traversing tens of thousands of miles in a single day wasn't a problem at all. Senior, please wait a moment. Qin Wentian didn't leave immediately. He stepped out and stared in the direction of those from the Grand Shang Empire, before turning his gaze onto the 6 great powers of Xian King City. Back then, the 6 great powers ganged up on me because of the constellation fruits. Hence, I, Qin, came here today for revenge. If any of you want revenge, feel free to come to the Battle Sword sect to look for me. However, there's one more person who must die today. As the sound of his voice faded, his gaze instantly locked onto Yin Cheng from the Yin clan. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's gaze, Yin Cheng's countenance paled as he howled, "Grandpa, save me." However, a terrifying beam of light shot out from the center of Qin Wentian's brows. His will of mandates directly blasted into Yin Cheng's sea of consciousness. In an instant, Yin Cheng only felt a scene of purgatory appearing in his sea of consciousness. Corpses piled up like mountains as blood dyed the heavens and earth red. Numerous devils and devils rushed towards him, and the one in the lead was none other than Qi Yezi, whom he had forced to his death back then. This is an illusion, it's not real. Yin Cheng howled in rage, wanting to struggle free. However, he only saw the numerous devils and devils directly grabbing at him with a strength of over 1,000,000 jin. With a muffled sound, the crowd saw Yin Cheng coughing out blood 3 times in a row. His countenance was as pale as paper as he directly collapsed to the ground, killed by Qin Wentian through the air. This. The spectators stared in shock at this scene. Qin Wentian's ability to kill those with a lower cultivation base was simply unfathomable. Most probably, it was the power of his eye technique, similar to Shang Tong's innate techniques. You. The experts from the Yin clan pointed their fingers at Qin Wentian, their killing intent towered up into the sky. However, Qin Wentian merely stared at them calmly, there was no joy nor sorrow in his eyes. Back then, the 6 major powers of Xian King City ganged up on him because he didn't have any background, which was why they dared to do so. Now, he borrowed the power of the Battle Sword sect to forcefully annihilate Yin Cheng. Yet the Yin clan could only feel hatred, they didn't dare to seek revenge. It was as though the tables had been flipped. One couldn't help but say that the situation had changed drastically. In just a short span of a few months, the heavens and earth had been turned upside down. Because of the pursuit in the heavenly mountain range, it led to a bloody war in Xian King City today, implicating the 9 great sects in the process. I'll wait for you all to come and take revenge. Qin Wentian stared at the experts from the Yin clan. After which, he and Qin stepped onto the sword beam. Little Rascal transformed into a white shadow and leapt into Qin Wentian's embrace, causing a look of bewilderment to appear on the faces of many. Go! The old man from the Battle Sword sect roared. A moment later, the whistling of swords filled the air as the group of experts soared through the air, transforming into beams of white light. Let's go! The crowd felt a sense of loss. The battle today was truly fascinating, yet they felt that it was too short. That young man and woman were simply too powerful, with outstanding talent. In the future, they would definitely be able to shine brightly in the Battle Sword sect. The Battle Sword sect only came here to pick up the 2 of them. What's going on exactly? There were also people who were bewildered, they couldn't understand. Shang Yu watched on as Qin Wentian killed Yin Cheng and left. An indescribable feeling filled her heart. This person was someone she couldn't be compared to. The 2 of them were people from different worlds, even if she was the princess of Xian King City. Ji Shui and Su Feng also watched as Qin Wentian left. A smile flickered in Ji Shui's eyes as she spoke in a low voice, let's hope that in the future, we would be able to hear his legend in Grand Shang Empire. Qin Wentian's trip to the Battle Sword sect would definitely cause a storm of commotion in the royal sacred region. The royal capital of Grand Shang could be considered the border region of the royal sacred region. True experts were as common as the clouds there, and geniuses were innumerable. Geniuses like these from Xian King City could be seen everywhere. For this trip to the Battle Sword Sect, the true elites of the 9 great sects didn't come out. From afar, in the air, Qin Wentian and Qing stood on the same sword beam. Qin Wentian stared at Qing as he smiled. Qing, when did you become so powerful? Your mandates have actually reached the perfection boundary. Qing stared at Qin Wentian as she replied in a low voice, I've eaten the fruits you gave me. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The 2 constellation fruits that contained spatial energy were actually eaten by this lass. No wonder her mandate of space had already reached the perfection boundary. She was truly a glutton. Was it delicious? Qin Wentian had a smile that was not a smile on his face as he asked. Qing stared at Qin Wentian, her eyes brightened as an expression of contemplation appeared on her face. Her lips trembled as she replied, disgusting. Oh. Qin Wentian stared at the serious expression on Qing's face. He did his best to suppress the urge to laugh out loud. This last Qing was truly adorable. Chapter 5:17. The royal sacred region spanned across the boundless territories, and there were countless sects and clans, as well as countless ancient countries. The royal sacred sect, the hegemon of this boundless territory, was also located in this region. In this region, other than the hegemon, there were the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires. The 9 sects naturally referred to the 9 great sects of the royal sacred region. The 7 clans referred to the 7 transcendent ancient clans, their strength unfathomably terrifying. It was just that they didn't belong to the royal sacred sect directly, but the descendants of these 7 clans all felt it was an honor to join the royal sacred sect. The twin empires referred to the Grand Shang Empire and the Grand Zhou Empire. If one looked further, the 3 empires, Grand Zhou, Grand Shang, and Grand Xia, all belonged to the royal sacred region and were governed by the royal sacred sect. It was just that because the area they controlled was too vast, the royal sacred sect wasn't willing to care about places that were too far away. Not only that, half of the Grand Zhou Empire's territory was within the royal sacred region. The most important royal capital of the Grand Shang Empire was there as well. As for the already destroyed Grand Xia, the royal sacred region no longer paid much attention to it. From this, one could very well imagine how vast this region was. The number of living beings here was truly innumerable, and it was unknown how many experts there were. Not only that, other than the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires, there were still many weaker sects and clans, and even ancient countries. They belonged to the second tier of powers, but they were still exceedingly powerful. If there was a day where a few peak characters appeared, they might be able to replace the 9 sects, 7 clans, and twin empires. One must know that in the history of the royal sacred region, these powers had all been replaced before. 5,000 years ago, among the 9 sects, there was no battle sword sect. It was just that the battle sword sect suddenly rose up and obtained an important position in the royal sacred sect, gradually becoming an important branch of the royal sacred sect. This was also the reason why the various sects wanted to send their disciples to the royal sacred sect. For some of the second-tier powers, their accumulations weren't any weaker compared to the 9 great sections. It was just that their strength was too weak compared to the royal sacred sect, which was why they had no way to replace them. Right now, Qin Wentian had arrived at such a region. Along the way, he flew on his flying sword and stared at the flourishing scenery below, feeling shock in his heart. The people of the battle sword sect didn't fly too high, and they could clearly see everything below. Everywhere they passed, the places were all much more flourishing compared to the 9 continents of Grand Xia. Sometimes, they would pass by some tyrannical aristocratic clans, and the experts of those clans would soar up into the skies, exuding a terrifying aura that could easily sweep through the 9 continents of Grand Xia. Qin Wentian also flew past an ancient country. As they passed by, the territory of the ancient country was an empire, they as kings as they as sacred clans of the lands, they as emperors they could, they as they could. As they as, and when they, as ancient as, and, they as. As Qin Wentian also flew past an ancient country. The territory of this ancient country was exceedingly vast, and when they passed by the royal palace of the ancient country, countless experts clad in armor soared up into the skies. That kind of aura caused one to feel suffocated, and upon seeing that they were from the Battle Sword sect, there were instantly nobles who came out to send them off. After the experts of the Battle Sword sect knew that he came from the desolate Grand Xia, they purposely did this. Evidently, they had put in a lot of effort to allow him to broaden his horizons, allowing him to understand how vast the heavens and earth were. From his conversation with Lin Shuai and the others, only then did he understand that Grand Xia was actually an abandoned land of desolation in the eyes of the experts of the royal sacred region. This caused Qin Wentian to be filled with a myriad of emotions. Qin Wentian also finally understood why Junyu was so arrogant when he came to Grand Xia. He was a disciple of the royal sacred sect, how could he have any regard for the desolation of Grand Xia? On the contrary, the people of Grand Xia rarely came to the royal sacred region before. Most probably, they didn't have enough understanding of Junyu's status. However, all of this only caused Qin Wentian to be even more excited. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he exuded an imposing aura. Qing'er who was beside him was as calm as ever. She didn't say anything, and even when the experts of the Battle Sword sect tried to talk to her, she ignored them, causing the experts of the Battle Sword sect to smile bitterly. But knowing her personality, they wouldn't lower themselves to her level. Finally, they arrived at their destination, the Battle Sword sect located in the southern regions of the royal sacred region. In Qin Wentian's imagination, the Battle Sword sect should be located in a vast, desolate plain with many outstanding geniuses wanting to join it. But when he arrived, he couldn't help but to smile bitterly. The surroundings of the Battle Sword sect were bustling with activity. Outside the Battle Sword sect, there was an ancient sword erected there. This was the boundary of the Battle Sword sect. In front of them, a gigantic sword pierced through the heavens, as though it wanted to pierce through the clouds. In front of them, there were many ancient peaks, and numerous buildings stood there, resembling immortal palaces in the heavens. The Battle Sword sect spanned a few hundred miles, but it was located in the middle of a flourishing region, not in the wilderness. Outside the boundary of the Battle Sword sect, there were countless silhouettes walking about. Their gazes were fixed on the Battle Sword sect, as hints of reverence could be seen in their eyes. Why? Are you very disappointed? Lin Shuai stood beside Qin Wentian as he asked with a smile. How can that be? I'm just a little surprised. I thought the Battle Sword sect would be located in the middle of a mountain range. Qin Wentian laughed. I, Wu Xiu, roamed the world with a sword in my hands, living in the world of mortals. The Battle Sword sect isn't as transcendent as you think. We're all people of the world of mortals, cultivating our swordsmanship, roaming the world, settling our debts of gratitude and enmity, living a carefree and unrestrained life. Lin Shuai laughed. For those who are unable to face their own hearts, it's impossible for them to reach a higher realm in the path of the sword. The reason why the Battle Sword sect is so lax in disciplining their disciples is because they don't want to restrict them. Remember this, after joining the Battle Sword sect, there's no need for you to follow the rules. You only need to face your own heart and persevere. If there comes a day when you feel that the Battle Sword sect isn't suitable for you, you can just leave on your flying sword and the sect won't make things difficult for you. What a carefree and unrestrained Battle Sword sect. Qin Wentian felt his heart trembling when he heard Lin Shuai's words. Back in Xian King City, he had heard many rumors about the Battle Sword sect. Seems like the rumors were true, this sect was different from the other sections. They were truly carefree and open-minded, cultivating their swordsmanship, roaming the world, settling their debts of gratitude and enmity, living a carefree and unrestrained life. As the two of them spoke, the group of them had already entered the Battle Sword sect. When they got closer, they discovered that the Battle Sword sect was akin to an immortal palace. Mountain springs and waterfalls flowed down, and there were people chatting and laughing in the pavilions. There were even people practicing their swordsmanship in the training grounds of the ancient mountain. Upon seeing this group of people returning, many in the Battle Sword sect inclined their heads and glanced over only to see many disciples gathered together. The cultivation bases of the members of the Battle Sword sect were all at least at the Heavenly Dipper realm. Even if they were in their 30s or 40s, they still looked young. Hence, it wasn't strange at all. Seventh senior brother is back, and he even brought 2 young men and women with him. Are they the newly recruited disciples? Beneath a waterfall, a group of young men and women stared in the direction of Lin Shuai and the others. A young man clad in white had a look of curiosity on his face. That woman is so beautiful. Does she also want to join our Battle Sword sect? If that's the case, the title of the #1 beauty of our Battle Sword sect would definitely belong to her. The eyes of a young man beside him gleamed as he stared at Qing. Humph, a beautiful young woman beside him coldly snorted. This young woman was tall and had a curvaceous figure. Her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were bright. She had an oval-shaped face and was extremely beautiful. She glared at the young man beside her as she cursed in a low voice, "Lecherous fellow. Lust, lust, nature." The young man casually spoke, not minding it at all as he laughed, "What a pity junior sister is so distant from senior brother. If junior sister was willing to marry senior brother would definitely not look at other women." Scram! That young woman ruthlessly glared at him. Beside her, a skinny young man with an ancient sword strapped to his back suddenly spoke. Seventh senior brother accompanied the elders to the Battle Sword sect for some unknown reason. Now that he has returned, he even brought 2 young men with him. Could it be that this trip was all for the sake of these 2? Our Battle Sword sect has never set such a precedent before. Indeed, it's strange. Senior brother is here. The young woman beside him spoke. After which, Lin Shuai and the others arrived. The old man in the lead instructed, "Lin Shuai, I will leave the arrangements to you." "Okay." Lin Shuai nodded. After which, the old man led the group away. "Seventh senior brother, you have returned." That young woman stepped out as she smiled at Lin Shuai. Her attitude was completely different from how she treated the young man beside her. Junior sister's heart is blooming with joy upon seeing 7th senior brother's return. How sad. The young man who was scolded as a lecherous fellow earlier sighed. After which, he turned his gaze onto Qing as he asked, "I wonder how I should address this young lady." Qing coldly glanced at him and ignored him, treating him like air. This caused many in the surroundings to have smiles on their faces. The young man also had an awkward expression on his face. "You better be more obedient." Lin Shuai glared at him. After which, he introduced to the others, "This is junior brother Qin Wentian and junior sister Qing. From now on, they are also disciples of the Battle Sword sect. Junior sister Qing doesn't like to talk, so don't disturb her. If there's anything you want to say, just tell junior brother Qin, he will naturally inform junior sister." Qin appeared in the training grounds of Xian King City because she wanted to protect Qin Wentian. On the way here, Lin Shuai knew that the relationship between the two of them was extraordinary, which was why he gave this instruction. "Yes, senior brother." The others all nodded their heads in agreement. Qin Wentian had been observing silently, yet he couldn't help but feel shock in his heart. Lin Shuai was actually only his senior brother. He had initially thought that Lin Shuai's seniority would be a level higher than his. After all, other than the old man, Lin Shuai was the leader of the Battle Sword sect. What he didn't know was that because Lin Shuai was the personal disciple of the Battle Sword sect leader, his status was extraordinary. My name is Yi Lingshuang, junior brother and junior sister can refer to me as senior sister Yi or senior sister Lingshuang. That female smiled at Qin Wentian and Qin as she introduced herself. Jiang Huai. The skinny man nodded to the two of them. Lu Yun. The lecherous young man also smiled. The others introduced themselves one by one, and Qin Wentian nodded his head in return. Junior brother, this pet is so adorable. Can I take a look? Yi Lingshuang stared at little rascal in Qin Wentian's arms as a bright light flashed in her eyes. She had slain many demonic beasts before, but it was very rare for her to see such an adorable little demonic pet. Okay. Qin Wentian nodded. He loosened his grip, and little rascal leaped into Yi Lingshuang's embrace, causing a smile to appear on Yi Lingshuang's face. The little guy arched against her chest and curled up there, as if he was enjoying it very much. He said in a childish voice, "So, soft, ah." Yi Lingshuang was instantly petrified, her beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at little rascal in her arms. Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines. Staring at little rascal in Yi Lingshuang's arms, he felt an impulse to strangle it to death. This bastard really knew how to talk. Cough cough. Lu Yun coughed, staring at little rascal with jealousy in his eyes. After which, he turned to Qin Wentian as a meaningful smile appeared on his face. So it turns out that junior brother is a kindred spirit. Chapter 518. When Qin Wentian heard Lu Yun's words, he wanted nothing more than to find a hole to hide in. He snuck a glance at Yi Lingshuang only to see that this senior apprentice sister of his was also looking at him with a smile that was not a smile. That look of disdain in her eyes made Qin Wentian want to lift his head up and sigh to the heavens. He had just joined the Battle Sword sect and it seemed like his reputation had already been completely ruined by little rascal. Little rascal, scram back here for me. Qin Wentian glared hatefully at little rascal, only to see little rascal flipping its body over and lazily lying on top of Qin Wentian's ample bosom. Its eyes were narrowed as an expression of intoxication could be seen on its face. Junior brother has taught us well. Yi Lingshuang giggled. Qin Wentian howled in his heart. Even if he jumped into the heavenly river, he wouldn't be able to wash his name clean. Junior brother, junior sister, let me bring you all around the Battle Sword sect. Lin Shuai spoke, helping Qin Wentian out of this predicament. Qin Wentian nodded his head as the few of them soared up into the air. Yi Lingshuang and the rest followed behind them as they soared into the air. The Battle Sword sect has a span of a few hundred miles and has a total of 3,000 disciples. The ancient peaks of the Battle Sword sect are all connected to each other. The disciples will be staying in wooden houses located in the middle of the mountain peaks. You can choose any wooden house as your residence. Lin Shuai took a step in front of Qin Wentian as he pointed to a wooden house located in the middle of the mountain walls. The scenery was beautiful and the atmosphere was extremely quiet. Also, there was a certain distance between the wooden houses so that the disciples wouldn't disturb each other when cultivating. The residences are completely separated from the cultivation grounds of the Battle Sword sect. Look over there, that's the training grounds of our Battle Sword sect. Disciples can spar there and if there's a conflict between disciples, the elders can mediate between them. If there's no way to mediate, both parties can request for a final battle. Lin Shuai pointed to a location. Over there was a majestic training ground with many disciples gathered below. Qin Wentian made a mental note in his heart. The Battle Sword sect was the sect with the least number of disciples out of the 9 great sects, and their recruitment process was extremely strict. But who would have thought that they would actually have 3,000 disciples? From this, one could see how terrifying a great sect was. As for the other 8 great sects, their disciples should be in the tens of thousands, and all of them were elites. In fact, if one thought about it carefully, this wasn't anything strange at all. The royal sacred region was incomparably vast, there were countless sects and aristocratic clans, as well as the 3 empires and many ancient countries. The population of the 9 great sects was extremely high, and other than the royal sacred sect, the number of geniuses who wished to join the 9 great sects was innumerable. Even if the battle sword sect chose only 1 out of 1,000, there would still be several hundred of them. After so many years of accumulation, 3,000 disciples was definitely considered a small number. That place is the battle sword platform. When something big happens in the sect, the drums on the battle sword platform would shake the heavens and all the disciples of the battle sword sect would immediately gather there. Lin Shuai pointed to a vast area. Qin Wentian committed this to memory and continued following Lin Shuai. Up ahead, 9 ancient mountains appeared, each of them occupying an extremely large area. This is the Cultivation Mountain. There are too many disciples in the battle sword sect, and it's naturally impossible for us to teach them all at the same time. According to the different specialties of the disciples, there would be 9 sword sovereigns to guide them. Each of the 9 sword sovereigns would be in charge of a mountain, and there would also be elders and attendants under the sword sovereigns. Senior brother, which mountain are you from? Qin Wentian curiously asked. Senior brother is the personal disciple of the first mountain sword sovereign Ling Tian. Sword sovereign Ling Tian is also the sect leader of our battle sword sect. Yi Lingshuang stared at Qin Wentian as she continued, as for the rest of us, we are also disciples of sword sovereign Ling Tian. It's just that we aren't his personal disciples. Our masters are the elders of the first mountain. Qin Wentian nodded his head lightly. There were 3,000 disciples in the battle sword sect, it was naturally impossible for all of them to be personally taught by the 9 sword sovereigns. As the personal disciple of the sect leader, it was no wonder that Lin Shuai had such a transcendent status. Within the 9 mountains, there are library pavilions containing innate techniques, cultivation arts, and ancient records. Disciples of the various mountains are free to browse through them. If we continue forward, that would be the cultivation grounds of the supreme elders of our battle sword sect. Don't go there recklessly, Lin Shuai instructed to Qin Wentian. Other than this, within the ancient mountains of the battle sword sect, there would be ancient ruins left behind by the ancestors of our battle sword sect. You are free to browse through them as you wish. Lin Shuai continued, also, I want to bring you to an important location. After speaking, Lin Shuai's silhouette turned as Qin Wentian and the rest followed behind. He cast a puzzled glance at Yi Lingshuang, only to see her, Lu Yun and the rest all had solemn expressions on their faces. It was as though the place Lin Shuai was talking about had an extraordinary significance. Not long after, Lin Shuai brought him to the peak of a mountain. Over here, there were actually many disciples gathered. When they saw Lin Shuai, they all nodded their heads to him and greeted him as senior brother. Lin Shuai was the personal disciple of the sect leader, and his cultivation base had already broken through to celestial phenomenon. He wasn't any weaker compared to some of the attendants in the sect, hence he was naturally respected. Lin Shuai nodded his head lightly. Standing on the mountain peak, the crowd glanced at Qin Wentian and Qin behind Lin Shuai, feeling bewildered in their hearts. Were these 2 new disciples of the battle sword sect? They were actually personally brought here by senior brother Lin Shuai. Qin Wentian's aura was reserved, yet he was extraordinarily handsome. Qin was cold, yet her beauty was unparalleled. Yi Lingshuang was a rare beauty, yet even she paled in comparison to Qin Wentian. This caused the crowd to involuntarily sigh in admiration. These 2 new disciples seemed to be extraordinary. Qin Wentian wasn't in the mood to think too much about it. At this moment, his gaze was directed ahead. Opposite the ancient mountain, there was a thatched hut. This thatched hut seemed ordinary and extremely simple, but its surroundings seemed to be filled with a mysterious power, as though it was the only thing in this world. With this thatched hut here, all other sceneries seemed to lose their splendor. The grass hut deeply attracted Qin Wentian's gaze. The seemingly ordinary grass hut exuded such an extraordinary aura, which was truly shocking. He used his perception to spy on it, but discovered that his perception was blocked by an invisible force, unable to approach the grass hut at all. "Senior brother, what's in the thatched cottage?" Qin Wentian asked curiously. Lin Shuai lightly shook his head, "Nobody knows. Let alone me, even Master has never entered before. Or to put it more accurately, he can't enter at all." Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He didn't expect the Battle Sword sect to have such a mystical place. This place is the cultivation ground of the founder of the Battle Sword sect. It's rumored that the founder was a sword immortal-like character. Some people speculate that his sword is hidden within the grass hut, while others say that his sword arts are hidden within. Naturally, there are also some who say that there's nothing inside. However, the path leading to the grass hut contains the essence of the founder's cultivation. Lin Shuai's countenance was solemn. Only now did Qin Wentian notice that the height of the grass hut was the same as the mountain. Below them, there was a path leading to the grass hut. At this moment, there were several people attempting to ascend it, yet they had only reached the foot of the mountain. The distance to the grass hut was too far, and there was basically no way for them to ascend it. At this moment, Qin Wentian heard a terrifying sword whistling sound at the top of the mountain path. After which, he saw a terrifying sword rainbow slashing through the air, exuding an extremely terrifying might. The entire area seemed to be filled with thunderous booms. Junior sister Hanyu is so powerful, she actually managed to ascend to the 9th step. As expected of the dragon and phoenix of our Battle Sword sect. Many people exclaimed in admiration. Yeah, junior sister Hanyu is a personal disciple of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Her talent is the highest among the new disciples this year. Those who could join the Battle Sword sect were all outstanding characters. Yet these people were praising junior sister Hanyu unceasingly. Naturally, Qin Wentian had also noticed that the sword rainbow earlier was unleashed by a maiden clad in a fiery phoenix feather robe. This maiden was naturally none other than the junior sister Hanyu they were talking about. This maiden's countenance was as cold as frost and her figure was like fire. Her robes were the color of fire, as though they were weaved from phoenix feathers. Just a single glance at her would cause one to be mesmerized by her heroic bearing. This is junior sister Li Hanyu. She joined the Battle Sword Sovereigness not too long ago and was accepted as a personal disciple by the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness. Her background is also extraordinary. She's a descendant of the Li clan of the Southern Domain and possesses the bloodline of the Blood Phoenix. Although her cultivation base is only at the peak of the 5th level of Heavenly Dipper, it's easy for her to defeat ordinary cultivators at the peak of the 6th level. She's truly a rare genius. Lin Shuai spoke in a low voice to Qin Wentian, his eyes flashing with admiration. Evidently, he regarded Li Hanyu very highly. There were so many geniuses in the Battle Sword sect. It was already extremely difficult to join the Battle Sword sect, let alone becoming a personal disciple of the 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns. Senior brother, who should I become a disciple of? Qin Wentian asked with some bewilderment in his voice. The 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns were the 9 factions of the Battle Sword sect. At this moment, he still didn't know which mountain he should join. Naturally, you should join my master, Sword Sovereigness Ling Tian. Lin Shuai smiled. The path up the grass hut is extremely rugged, ordinary people would find it hard to even take a single step. Junior brother Qin, do you want to give it a try? What's on the path up the grass hut? Why is it so difficult? Qin Wentian asked. You'll know after you take a look. The path up the grass hut is a supreme treasure of our Battle Sword sect. Its value isn't inferior to the library of the 9 Mountain Sword Sovereigns. Not only that, it's open to you unconditionally as long as you are able to ascend it. I've heard that there was once a senior in our battle sword sect who managed to ascend the grass hut and reached the peak. After that, he became the #1 genius in our battle sword sect. Lin Shuai laughed, his words causing Qin Wentian to be even more curious. After which, he nodded his head, I'll give it a try then. Qing'er, do you want to go? I'm not going. Qing'er didn't seem to be too interested as she shook her head. Back then, there was an expert from her clan who passed on many cultivation arts to her. Regardless of cultivation arts or innate techniques, she didn't lack any of them. In fact, she even had many secret arts. The only reason why she joined the battle sword sect was because of Qin Wentian. If not, given the strength of the battle sword sect, it would be impossible for her to follow Qin Wentian in the dark. Hence, she could only follow Qin Wentian. Emichim, wait for me here. Qin Wentian nodded his head to Qing'er. After which, his silhouette flickered as he descended from the air. An instant later, he arrived at the bottom of the grass hut and stared at the mountain path ahead. When he inclined his head and stared at the grass hut again, he felt that it was extremely far away, as though it would be impossible for him to cross it. Qin Wentian took a step forward. Instantly, everything changed. In front of him, there was no longer a mountain path, but an ancient path. The grass hut appeared at the end of the ancient path, and in front of Qin Wentian, a mountain rampart appeared. On this mountain rampart, there was an incomparably exquisite diagram inscribed on it. Upon seeing the diagram on the mountain rampart, Qin Wentian was instantly immersed in it. He couldn't help but sigh in admiration. No wonder Lin Shuai said that the value of this place wasn't any lower than the library. This ancient path itself was a treasure trove. Chapter 519. The diagram on the mountain rampart was right before Qin Wentian's eyes. It was extremely vivid and lifelike, with a myriad of transformations. Within it, there seemed to be a great rock soaring through the skies, as fast as lightning, shuttling through the clouds with shocking speed. At this moment, a beam of sword light cascaded down from the skies, stunning the heavens and earth. The great rock soared through the air, yet it was still slower than that sword. As the sword descended, the great rock died. This diagram is the beheading rock diagram. Qin Wentian's heart pounded. He didn't expect that just the first step would cause such a terrifying diagram to appear on the rampart. Although there was only a single sword strike, it contained a myriad of transformations. This was a great Tao of the sword, containing boundless might. If one could successfully cultivate it, they would be able to slay a great rock. Sword chi radiated from Qin Wentian as he unceasingly slashed out with his sword. However, his speed was too slow. Although in the past, he already felt that his speed was extremely fast, in front of the mountain rampart, Qin Wentian felt that his speed was like that of an ant. Slow, extremely slow to the extreme. Qin Wentian had a feeling that he would never be able to slash out such a magnificent sword strike. Something's wrong. The first step on the ancient path leading to the grass hut is the mountain rampart. Most probably, there's an intent to comprehend the sword here. If not, why would Li Hanyu take a step forward after slashing out with her sword? She must have comprehended a single sword strike before she could advance. Since she could take 9 steps, how can I not be able to take a single step? Qin Wentian mused. Although Lin Shuai didn't tell him directly, he already understood that the path leading to the grass hut was the path to comprehend the sword. Also, this path was left behind by the founder of the battle sword sect. How could it be easy to comprehend the sword of the founder? How could he not be patient? This diagram is extraordinary, it's majestic and majestic. My current strength is simply insufficient in front of it. I need to create a dreamscape. Qin Wentian mused. After which, he closed his eyes and calmed himself. Activating his cultivation art, an instant later, Qin Wentian stepped into the dreamscape. In the air, the mountain and river diagram was still there. This was something he obtained long ago in the dark forest of Chu. As he grew stronger, he discovered how extraordinary this diagram was. At this moment, the diagram formed a dreamland of mountains and rivers. Qin Wentian stood proudly in the clouds, and in front of him, a great rock soared through the sky. It flew past him like a bolt of lightning, so fast that it was impossible to see it with the naked eye. However, the Qin Wentian in the dream world was no ordinary person. He stood above the clouds and watched as the rock soared through the sky. A beam of sword light descended from the sky and directly slashed the rock. In an instant, the rock died. "I can't see through it," Qin Wentian said calmly. He repeated this scene over and over again as he continued to comprehend this shocking sword. Gradually, Qin Wentian saw a different transformation. This sword was like the wind. No matter how fast the rock was, it couldn't escape the wind. The wind was everywhere, and no matter how fast the rock soared, it had to ride the wind. This sword was hidden within the wind. I have never comprehended the will of wind. Can I comprehend the sword? Qin Wentian murmured. He also wielded his sword, but it was one thing to understand, but it was impossible for him to do it. Moreover, he didn't understand the wind. It's impossible for all the disciples in the battle sword sect to be proficient in the mandate of wind. The only way to comprehend the sword is to comprehend it. Qin Wentian closed his eyes and exited the dreamland. Staring at the mountain rampart in front of him, he stretched out his hand and actually touched it. A thought appeared in his mind, and an instant later, a startling beam of sword light shot up into the sky, akin to the howling of a cold wind, tearing apart the heavens and earth. The mountain rampart dissipated. A smile appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he stepped out. He saw the second mountain rampart, and the second diagram. He saw a giant. This giant's head touched the heavens, trampling the earth. With a single stomp, it could shatter mountains, with a single step, it could sever rivers. With a single palm, it could even shatter the heavens. This scene was extremely shocking. Just as the giant was running, a sword descended from the sky. This sword was a gigantic sword, and it directly slammed into the giant's head. The speed of the sword wasn't fast, but in an instant, the giant's incomparably huge body disintegrated, turning into huge rocks and turning into a mountain range. The strength contained within this sword is far beyond millions and millions of Qin Wentian's heart trembled. He closed his eyes and once again immersed himself in the dreamland, trying to comprehend the might of the gigantic sword. If it's a spear, it would be the same. That's the power of the earth. Qin Wentian mumbled. After which, he placed his palms on the mountain rampart once more. Another beam of sword light appeared as he took another step forward. Behind him, on the mountain peak, the spectators all had looks of amazement on their faces when they saw Qin Wentian taking 2 steps forward. Junior brother is truly powerful, he actually managed to comprehend 2 sword strikes. Lin Shuai stared in the direction of Qin Wentian as he sighed in admiration. It's just 2 sword strikes. Back then, didn't senior brother also easily comprehend the first 7 sword strikes? These 7 shouldn't be too difficult. Yi Lingshuang faintly commented. Lin Shuai laughed, but my speed of comprehending the sword strikes is still inferior to junior brother Qin. How many sword strikes do you guys think junior brother Qin can comprehend today? Looking at his speed, his comprehension abilities shouldn't be weak. Maybe he can be like those disciples with high comprehension abilities, comprehending 7 sword strikes in one go. But after the 7th sword strike, it won't be so easy to comprehend any other sword strikes. Yi Lingshuang spoke. Lu Yun, who was at the side, also nodded his head. Back then, Li Hanyu comprehended 7 sword strikes in one go. After that, she used a total of 3 days to comprehend the 8th sword strike. As for the 9th sword strike, I heard that she used 7 days to comprehend it. Being able to comprehend the 9th sword strike, Li Hanyo's comprehension abilities must be extremely high. Maybe, she might be able to comprehend the 14th sword strike within a year. Lin Shuai glanced at Li Hanyo's silhouette. This female's talent was extraordinary, she should be able to comprehend the 14th sword strike within a year. He comprehended the 3rd sword strike, how fast? At this moment, Lin Shuai's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Qin Wentian effortlessly comprehended the 3rd sword strike. Maybe, junior brother Qin will not only comprehend 7 sword strikes today. Jiang Huai, how many sword strikes do you think he can comprehend? Yi Lingshuang asked the skinny Jiang Huai. Jiang Huai's comprehension abilities were also extremely impressive. I don't know, but he should be able to comprehend the record of 7 sword strikes. Jiang Huai faintly replied. As they were conversing, Qin Wentian had already comprehended the 4th sword strike. Momentarily, the gazes of many were attracted to Qin Wentian. How fast, he's already comprehended the 4th sword strike. The record for the 7th sword strike was 2 hours. If this continues on, he should be able to comprehend the 7th sword strike very soon. Someone had a look of amazement on his face. This young man brought by Lin Shuai seemed to be extraordinary. It's already the 5th sword strike. How can he be so fast? The crowd exclaimed in shock. Qin Wentian had already taken 5 steps, causing 5 beams of sword light to appear. This meant that he had already comprehended 5 sword strikes. Awesome! Lin Shuai's eyes gleamed with surprise. The last 2 sword strikes are more difficult, I'm afraid it won't be so easy for him to comprehend them. Someone stated. However, as the sound of that person's voice faded, Qin Wentian had already taken the 6th step. This meant that he had comprehended 6 sword strikes. How can this be? Is this luck? The person who spoke earlier had a depressed look on his face. He had just made a prediction when he was slapped in the face. This caused many to look at him in disdain. He's going to break the record. Someone spoke. I don't believe that he can comprehend this sword strike so quickly. That person spoke again. And as expected, this time around, Qin Wentian paused for a period of time, standing there and comprehending. As expected, he can't do it anymore. That person laughed. He glanced at the people around him, only to see that the people around him all had strange expressions on their faces. After that, he turned his head back only to see a resplendent beam of light flashing past. Qin Wentian had already taken the 7th step. At the instant he took the 7th step, Qin Wentian's body was enveloped by a dazzling radiance. It was as though he was wearing a halo of light, causing others to admire him. In the air above his head, the whistling of swords could be heard unceasingly. He broke the record. The crowd stared at Qin Wentian as shock filled their hearts. Who would have thought that a new disciple would be able to break the record of comprehending the first 7 sword strikes? Lin Shuai had a smile on his face. No wonder the martial ancestor wanted them to bring Qin Wentian over. Seems like the martial ancestor could already tell that Qin Wentian was extraordinary. Their efforts in coming to the Xian King city weren't in vain. So what if he broke the record? I'm afraid he won't be able to comprehend the 8th sword strike. Someone spoke, unconvinced. Who would have thought that a new disciple would actually break the record? Who knows? Maybe there will be a good show to watch. There were also people who were filled with admiration as they laughed. From afar, several silhouettes sped over. Evidently, they were startled by the whistling of swords and knew that someone from the sword hut had broken the record. The 8th sword strike isn't so easy to comprehend. Yi Lingshuang faintly spoke. She glanced at little rascal in her embrace, whose eyes were wide open as he stared at Qin Wentian. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. If that lecherous fellow like Lu Yun really had such talent, then the heavens really didn't have eyes. Not only that, her senior brother Lin Shuai still regarded him so highly. If Qin Wentian knew that he was framed by Little Rascal and was labeled as a lecherous fellow, he would definitely be so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Senior Sister Yi, why is he lecherous? Did he take advantage of you? Someone teased. Momentarily, Yi Lingshuang's countenance turned cold as she swept her gaze over to that person. Are you looking for a beating? I don't dare. That person laughed. However, very swiftly after, there were many rumors about Qin Wentian, a new disciple of the Battle Sword sect, breaking the record of comprehending the first 7 sword strikes. Not only that, he was also a lecherous fellow who dared to disrespect Yi Lingshuang the moment he joined the Battle Sword sect. The pitiful Qin Wentian didn't even know that his reputation had already been ruined. At this moment, he came before another diagram on the mountain rampart. This time around, it was still the image of a great rock soaring through the 9 heavens, and it was still a sword strike. However, this sword strike was different from the first one. As the sword light descended, Qin Wentian could see several streams of sword light lacerating everything in their path. In an instant, the great rock was actually shattered into pieces. How is this possible? Qin Wentian's heart trembled. How could the will of the mandate of wind reach such a level? Qin Wentian was stunned. He once again entered the dreamscape to comprehend. That majestic aura unceasingly manifested before him, yet he discovered that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't recreate the scene in the outside world. He had no idea how that sword strike was born, hence, he was unable to recreate it. I must be able to find the reason. Qin Wentian scrutinized the sword strike on the mountain rampart. That sword that descended along with the wind seemed to have manifested several streams of wind energy that enveloped the great rock. As the sword slashed down, the great rock was instantly shattered into pieces. It was extremely hard to tell what kind of energy was used to achieve this. Qin Wentian's countenance changed unceasingly as he sank into contemplation. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. This caused many in the crowd to laugh. It seemed like Qin Wentian had no way to comprehend this sword strike. How can the 8th sword strike be so easily comprehended? Yi Lingshuang faintly stated. The 8th sword strike was extremely difficult. I understand. At this moment, a bolt of lightning flashed through Qin Wentian's mind as a hint of comprehension appeared in his mind. It was naturally impossible to fuse a single mandate with a sword. But what if there was another type of mandate that could be fused? This is the power born from the fusion of wind and rain. Qin Wentian's eyes shone with a resplendent light. He stretched out his hand and placed it on the mountain rampart as a diagram appeared in his mind. Instantly, the wind and rain howled as the heavens and earth changed color. Qin Wentian took the 8th step, and in that instant, the countenances of everyone on the mountain peak changed as their eyes gleamed with sharpness. Comprehending the 8th sword strike. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.